This is the RPM Podcast, starring Eric Brennan.
I have always been a fan of prison.
Is that why you're walking funny?
It's a problem. He spanked him.
Eric Graham.
You get your skirt dirty, it's a bad thing. I'm not happy till there's bump and runs. Sometimes just see bump and splats. There's more contact in Formula One than there is in NASCAR.
Sam.
3 pumps.
Ballard Jr.
I know you're listening to the show. He's my cousin. Leave him alone. I like dirty skirts.
And Josh Matthews. That was creepy. I got nothing.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the RPM Podcast. Of course, as soon as we get started, my voice goes hoarse on me. I've been sick for the last 2 days, and but being that I have a unique opportunity with this podcast here on a Monday that we are recording, due to some scheduling conflicts, I could not miss this. If I happen to get sick and tap out, Sam Ballard's going to take over hosting duty, so thank you, Sam, for pinch hitting. Love you. You're the man.
Sure.
I'll take that as you love me, too. So we got Sam Ballard Jr. with us. We got Scott Riggleman with us, fresh off his runner-up finish on Saturday at the factory stock opener. What's up, Scott?
What's up, guys? Glad to be back and glad we're doing it on a Monday.
Oh, yeah. And really in the midst of racing season now. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And in the Matthews Family Studios, we have producer Josh Matthews. Hi, Josh.
Huh? What?
And representing the ATQMRA, driver number 01TQ, our buddy Kyle Taraska. Kyle, how you doing, man?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. I know we've been talking about some cool things we have in the works, and we'll be getting to that a little bit later. But
Absolutely.
First, we got a whole bunch of races that actually got to talk about, some of which just wrapped up only a couple hours ago, and that was the Monster Energy Cup Series at Bristol. Contrary to what my coworkers may believe, I left work early, not to watch the end of the race, but because I couldn't breathe. So with that, I got to see the end of the race, and I was entertained beyond belief. I don't know who had a chance to catch up or refresh, or Josh, I know you were out in the real world working and then busting tail and got home late and all that stuff. I'll tell you what, in terms of the product, I don't know what they did with that PJ1 or that sticky stuff or that grip strip or whatever you want to call it, but however they applied it this time around, they got it perfect. And I thought the race was amazing. If Bristol could keep that even blend where guys could still search around for some different grooves, there was some push and shoving, knock guys out of the way. Not a lot of people mad at each other, but I think that's because everybody just wanted to go home today. If the race would have went the distance Sunday, we might have got that little temperage. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it all. Kyle Busch won. Larson was second, wasn't happy. And I thought it was great. And if some, I don't know. You guys, Scott, you've been around Bristol for a while. You've seen what kind of race it was back in the day compared to what it is now. What do you think of this version of Bristol?
He just called you old, Scott. Yeah, I am old. I remember when the track was paved and then when it was asphalt. I thought it was a great race too. I really did. I mean, I love Bristol, man. They put on a great show. You had a little bit of action. I mean, Newman got in the back of Kyle Larson and spun him. Then Kyle Busch had to do a little bit of a bump and run on Kyle Larson to get the lead and say in the closing laps of the race. So I mean, other than the weather, I mean, it really sucked that the weather was bad. I really feel bad for racetracks when that happens to them. They put all that money and effort into it. And Bristol does have 2 race weekends there a year, but man, when you only got 2 race weekends a year to make your money and it rains on that weekend, it just kills you, you know.
Yeah. Looked like they had an IndyCar crowd there.
Yeah, I feel bad. And, people on Facebook saying, "Oh my God, there's nobody in Bristol." Yeah, well, it's snowing there, it's sleet and ice, and of course there's nobody there. But what a shame. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever been to Bristol, but there's all sorts of like little rivers and creeks all around the racetrack, going through the camping areas, and it floods. It floods big time. So I was wondering what the flooding was like there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great race, and then to what Eric said about the PJ1, it definitely enhanced the product and more of what the fans have been looking for, getting the Bristol bump and run. We saw that with Kyle Busch and Larson at the end of the race today. Getting guys to run on the bottom, but still, at the end of the day, if they want the guys to run on the bottom, I wish they would just bulldoze the track and just repave it back to the way it was. Yeah. Get rid of the progressive banking. I mean, we saw it right before it started raining yesterday, or maybe it was yesterday with Eric Jones, for example. I felt like he was a guy that really had a good car that could have won and got his first win. And then late restart. He was starting on the bottom, and then he tried to get going on the PJ1, and it was after a rain delay, and it was all glossed off, and there was no heat in it, and it was slick, and he went from second to 20th like that, and it was just one of those things. I'd rather have if the racetrack is designed, purposely to be down on the bottom, then let him be. If it's purposely designed, like a couple years past when they grinded the top off and we saw him running up against the wall, then so be it. But even then, at the end of the day, I think this was outside of. Well, I guess Daytona really wasn't that good of a race because I ran single file for half of that. So this really was probably the best race of the year so far.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were happy with Martinsville. Yeah, I say when that stuff gets wet or damp or whatever, it's almost like when you're leaving a traffic light and you hit that line of paint and your tires just spin, whether you're trying to or not. So
yeah, and I just like I said, it's one of those things. And you mentioned the crowd earlier, the dismal crowd, and I think unfortunately that's been one of NASCAR's, sticking points is just, when it comes to like just not so much manipulating, but just really and trying too hard to make it too much of a show or what people actually think they want it to be. When at the end of the day, it's a sport in its purest form. And, every guys are there to race and guys are there to make a living and, race hard and win. And sometimes, doing stuff like the PJ1, it takes away from that.
Yeah. Well, Scott, you said they tried it in practice at Wall. Did they have it down Saturday night?
You know what? I really didn't notice it Saturday night at Wall Stadium. I don't know if they resprayed it or not. It didn't seem like they did because when we went to practice, you can tell the track was darker in spots because where they sprayed it, and I didn't notice that Saturday at Wall. I didn't know if they did a light coat. They didn't do nothing real thick, so I really don't know.
Okay, I know in the factory stock race, which we're going to talk more about later, I know Brian O'Shea got stuck on the outside for a while, and he was making a good hard effort of it to stay up there and try to slot in when he got a chance, but he was able to hold a decent run on the outside.
You know what, too, with that, I know we're on the NASCAR thing right now, but with the factory stock race at Wall Stadium, you got to remember everybody was on 4 brand new tires because when it's the start of the season, you're allowed to put 4 brand new tires on. And my car was sticking like glue. I mean, everybody was on brand new tires, so I'm sure that helped Brian on the outside too. I don't really think it was the sticky stuff they lay on the track. I think it was more the fact that he had 4 brand new tires on, and from here on out, we're only allowed 1 a week.
Right. Well, worth talking about. We're going to get more into that when we go into our local segment a bit later. Go ahead, Eric.
Sam, I see you chomping at the bit. What do you got?
I'm not going to lie. Get ready. I'm going to tick off all 1,000 of our listeners here. I like this new Bristol over the one that we had 10, 20 years ago. I think it's racier. I think it puts on a better show. I think it gives drivers who normally don't run up front. I think it's the Talladega of short tracks. You don't see this happen at Martinsville. And I just think there's a reason because guys like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. can go out there and decide to run whatever lane they want and still be successful. Yeah, you have guys respectfully like Kyle Busch or Jimmy Johnson, who wants to just run the bottom line, can still go out there and run the bottom line and still be good at it. I think this is the balance that NASCAR needs. NASCAR, we need more short tracks. And I think overall, that's where they need to sell it. They have their selling point now. They have the product that's sellable now, like we do on the RPM podcast. This stuff is sellable. We just need to sell the crap out of it.
Yeah, and it's
now I think to Sam's.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kyle.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, I agree 100% with that. I mean, I liked what Bristol did back. I think it was 07 or 08 was when they originally repaved the racetrack with the progressive banking, and then all of a sudden you had guys going from just running the bottom to running 3 wide everywhere. And I thought the action was great. And obviously there's a reason why they did that back then because people complained about everyone running on the bottom and the wrecking and everything else. So, I mean, they had good reason to do that, and it's just another example, not to call anybody out, but it's just another example of NASCAR fans not really knowing what they want. And then NASCAR listens, and then they react, and then there's unintended consequences, and that's kind of where we're at today. I mean, I love running 3-4 wide like Sam was just talking about. I think it's awesome. It puts on a great show, but it takes away from the bump and run of what sold out that place for so many years.
Kyle, it's okay. We understand on the RPM podcast that most NASCAR fans are stupid.
I got to
guys. He's only kidding.
Oh man.
Now, I think one of the things that made this race what it was storylines, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the fact that Bubba Wallace or Darrell Wallace Jr. literally drove from about the 6th spot on a restart up through the field. Might have knocked everybody out of the way to do it, but he drove up through the field to take the lead. And it's almost like a switch went off and the car began to fade. I feel like with other versions of Bristol, you wouldn't see that because, it wasn't as equal as it could have been, when they first made the transition. And then when they tried a bunch of different things, we saw teams like Matt DiBenedetto for BK Racing in the top 15, and so many other teams have success with this version of track.
Yeah, let's not forget about Josh's favorite team, Starcom. They got a top 20, their highest finish since they started.
Yeah.
And to make Josh's favorite driver, Landon Castle, even more impressive with that run, he said he went the last 125 laps on the same set of tires. They were out of tires. NASCAR let the teams buy another set of tires on Monday. And, of course, Starcom didn't have the extra money to buy them, so they just ran with what they had.
I think
so for them to get a top 20 was great,
Somebody in the Xfinity race got an extra set of tires.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was Elliott Sadler. Elliott Sadler got an extra. Yes, Elliott Sadler he flat spotted his tires within like one lap for a lapped car or something stupid like that, and NASCAR gave him an extra set. Boom.
Thank you, Sam.
Also, the Cup race today may have marked a bit of a resurgence for Hendrick Motorsports. Jimmy Johnson, Alex Bowman in the top 5 after the results today. Yeah. That's good to see. Aerodynamics not really playing that much of a role at Bristol, some would argue. So maybe that's why they kind of got themselves back in their normal swing of things, and they have some momentum heading to Richmond. Something to watch. But I was thrilled. Great race overall, both yesterday and today.
Well,
I know it sucked that the weather was bad, but if we were going to have bad weather like this for a NASCAR weekend, we were kind of lucky it was at Bristol. It was amazing how fast they could dry that track, wasn't it?
Absolutely, incredibly fast. Between the jet dryers and the Air Titans, they were able to just blow that stuff right off and get back to racing. It was crazy because you run a couple laps, get some rain, they dried off, went back out, ran another couple laps.
If that was at a bigger racetrack, and they would have never got it in, they'd still be trying to race tomorrow.
If it was like Indy or something like that, they would have pulled the plug all 2 days. Well, both days, I should say. Yeah. So we got really lucky with that.
I just don't understand why they just don't market the Monday show. I mean, Bristol the last 2 years, this race has been ran on a Monday. Why not just keep it on a Monday now?
I still think we should see a primetime race. Now, I don't know if you could do it in March or April, whatever it is now. But I think that they should give it a shot. Run a Cup race on a Monday or Tuesday night and just see how it works out.
And my boy Jimmy Johnson loves Monday day races at Bristol. So why not?
Yeah, I think, not to get off topic with that, but there's been some rumors. I know, like, when 2021 comes around with the TV contracts or the racetrack contracts, because they signed 5-year deals with NASCAR, I think that's going to be a really good opportunity to shake the schedule up a little bit. I think some of those summer midweek races, I'm all about that. I think we need something to spice it up. I think we need to be going. I mean, we talk again. I mentioned it again. The crowd at Bristol. Sure. The weather wasn't good and it was a Monday show or whatever. But still, once upon a time, it didn't matter what the weather was. 160,000 people at Bristol was a guarantee. It was the hardest ticket in racing to get. So tracks like that are probably going to lose their race and go to these tracks for just one time. That's another conversation for another day. But
yeah, just to add to that conversation, I mean, Bruton Smith said one time that he'd love to have just a TV race during the week on a Wednesday night, not even sell tickets to the grandstands. He said that the TV contract is so lucrative that he could literally put on like a 200 or 250 lap Cup race at Bristol on a Wednesday night and not even sell tickets and just make the money off the TV. And I think that would be pretty cool too.
Absolutely.
Also, I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Ryan Blaney and the strong run he had when he got crashed while leading. And even though Kyle Larson finished second, he too got dumped while leading. He was able to rebound for a second-place finish. I see a win in both those guys' futures very, very soon.
Yeah, that was.
And our boy Sonny D finished P3. I mean, great day.
I tell you what, that car looked awesome, didn't it? That Sonny D car really stood out. It really looked awesome. And the STP car. The STP car, I really love that paint scheme. Those colors look great together.
Absolutely.
Don't mix them together, though.
Now, the Cup Series.
I don't think that'd be a
The Cup Series wasn't the only NASCAR National Series in Bristol this weekend. The NASCAR Xfinity Series had their Dash for Cash, their first Dash for Cash event of the 2018 season. A lot of people gave Ryan Preece some crap for being eligible. Reason being is that he simply doesn't have the funding to run the whole year. And, well, that's only if you ask Elliott Sadler. But he didn't have the funding to run full time, but we knew he was going to be in this race. He signed up to earn Xfinity Series points. And for a while, it looked as though, he may be third or fourth best out of the top four that were competing for that Dash for Cash prize, with Daniel Hemrick and Christopher Bell running quite well throughout the beginning of that race. But lo and behold, Priest kind of methodically picked his way through traffic and not only won the race, but also got the $100,000 Dash for Cash bonus. And that's a win, Scott, that really resonates up here. You know, Priest, who's won Turkey Derby before, competes at Wall Stadium, you know, when he can. Usually it's at Turkey Derby every year over the last couple of years. We talked about it when he got the win at Iowa last summer. Seeing Ryan Priest have any level of success is really an honor to the local short track racer. Is that true?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, he even said in Victory Lane, he kept saying modifieds mainly, and they did a nice little piece on him where they went to his shop at home and showed his race cars, and he said he's using his portion of that $100,000 to build a modified with. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think he's going to need to do it. I think he should save that money and buy a little house down in North Carolina, because I really think this pushed him over the top where Gibbs is going to have to find a full-time spot for him and just do it, because, I mean, every time he gets in the car, he runs top 5 or wins. So, I mean, he's got to land something full-time down there. Now they're going to have to make room for him and find the sponsorship.
Now, keeping the same theme for Priest, being that he won, he would be eligible for the Dash for Cash the next race, which is Richmond, but it's on a race he's scheduled to run right now. And I guess I was kind of pipe dreaming that they would find a way to make it happen, but I guess
NASCAR wouldn't let him sign up. It was too late. You know?
It would have had to have been known that he was going to be in that race or not, and it wasn't on the schedule.
It seems like he could still race the race if he wanted to enter the race, but he wouldn't be eligible for the money because he wasn't entered for it before, you know?
So, Sam, you're kind of down North Carolina, but still the name Ryan Priest resonates down there as well. It's a popular win up north. Is that the same feel down there for some of your short track friends?
No, I just think he's another Yankee winning races. But I agree with you, Scott, and I low-key put my tinfoil hat on, think that Gibbs is going to put him full-time in the number 18 next year. That's all I'm saying.
No, that's going to be Daniel Kvyat's spot.
Daniel who?
Accurate.
Hey, real quick, the reason why that Dash for Cash thing is messed up for next weekend, not only is Ryan Priest, if he decided to enter the race, would not be eligible for the race, but the 21 team, Xfinity team, failed post-race inspection, and NASCAR was like, hey, this penalty is not big enough, so we're still going to allow him to be in the Dash for Cash. How messed up is that?
Who is
that was a big deal where they ended up. I don't know exactly what the infraction was, but I remember reading that the car failed post-race test. He wasn't Dash for Cash eligible. Brandon Jones was going to get the nod to go next. And then about an hour and a half later, they come out and say, you know what? Wait a minute. It wasn't that bad of a penalty. We rescind it. Hemrick's back in. Jones is back out. That's a bad look.
I think if you could sign Jeff Gordon up to add on as an extra car to run for a championship in the Premier Series, I think you could sign Brandon Jones up to run for $100,000 in the next Xfinity race.
Yeah, remember that? That was a little goofy when they did that. When they bumped it up.
I think we need another Jeff Gordon rule for Brandon Jones. That really sucks for him.
I'll tell you, Kyle, I didn't even think of that. And the fact you make that point, I'm blown away, because that is the best argument to this type of scenario, and that's who I feel for, is for Brandon Jones right now. Can you educate
us ignorant NASCAR fans like myself what that was all about?
What am I educating you on now?
I need
that's when wasn't that one Jeff Gordon? Not with Jeff Gordon. That's when Clint Boyer and the Michael Waltrip stuff happened.
Clint Boyer got all itchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
right. You got to scratch that elbow. Right.
Exactly.
Okay. I get it now. Richmond. Right. Okay. Clint Boyer, I love you. Great guy.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, other than almost ruining the integrity of the entire sport. But yeah, other than that, he's a great guy.
But then they could have the, if they said that the one guy's out and the other guy's in, and then they go back on it, I think you should have both guys in and eligible.
I think one thing that you need to do, and this is across the board, and we've seen this with Kevin Harvick this year, we've seen it with Chase Elliott with these L1 and these L3, whatever. If NASCAR cannot catch the penalty post-race in the inspection line, then the car's legal, and that's it. I mean, Scott, when you run your factory stock at Wall, and if you win the race on Saturday, it's not going to the Krause's house Monday afternoon to go through a final teardown to make sure you're within thousandths of an inch of the rule book.
Plus, a lot can happen during the course of a race. We have a crazy camber roll with the factory stocks. 7-degree camber roll. You can get hit in the right front and knock the right front out, and bend something, and now you're at 8 or 9 degrees camber roll. You pull in the pits, and they disqualify you for it. And it's just I mean, that damage, check it before you go out on the track if you're so worried about it. You know what I'm saying?
But here's the thing. There's something to be said for people that, I mean, I managed with my hunker crap to get 4th in points one year.
Yeah.
And it was because I showed up for every race, and then I would finish every race. There was not a single race I didn't finish that year.
Yeah.
And that helped with the points, because somebody else took a week off, whatever. I was still there. And I never finished better than 5th the entire season, but you got 4th in points right there.
Right.
And if they know that they're going to attack, the top 3 cars, sometimes top 4 or even top 5, that they're going to, they used to occasionally, we're going to pick a random car to pull off.
Yeah, they call it a bubble car. I like that idea. Pull the guy in that finished 7th or 8th. He's on the track too. He should be legal.
Because
but
if I can finish 5th over and over,
about.
I'm just saying that, you can purposely finish well, but not get a win, and you could be cheating, and you could just purposely place yourself there.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool to grab an extra car after the fact to not let people do that.
Oh, yeah. No, and I'm 100% for that. I mean, and we even do that in the ATQMRA every single race as well. And I think most divisions, they do practice that. But I'm just going, for the sake of this conversation, I'm just talking about the actual teardown for NASCAR's sake of what it looks like 2-3 days after. Or, for example, I mean, even the Daniel Hemrick and the Brandon Jones, the car goes through inspection. Okay, they decide this, and then you're going to review it, and then an hour and a half later, you're going to decide something else. Just make your mind up.
Well, I was saying if because people started pointing out like with the Harvick, the window or the roof,
the window
thing.
brace. Yeah.
Now, whether or not that was to someone's advantage, if they had something that got by their first inspection, but they saw no, that doesn't look right, and they call them out. But let's not black flag them and make them lose the race now in case we're wrong.
Right.
The thing too at NASCAR though, why they need a post-race inspection, because of the pit stops. They knew they weren't getting checked post-race with inspection. They'd be changing crazy stuff during the pit stops.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were comparing my factory stock racing. I mean, once I'm down on the track, my crew is never touching that car again. So it is what it is once it goes down on the track.
Yeah.
But with NASCAR, they do have their pre-inspection, but they do need a post-inspection because stuff can get changed on pit road.
Sure. Exactly. And that's where I'm thinking, like, sometimes if they see something that they want to check because they think it could be illegal, but they need a little bit of time, and they say no, something seems off about your car, we're going to take it back
to the R&D.
So it's just because you want to stop them from getting away with it.
Right.
You have to do it however you see fit, because maybe they pull it off and get away with it, and then they don't do it at the next race, so NASCAR can't check that same thing for the next track or whatever. I don't know.
I'm all about what Brad Keselowski made a comment a couple weeks ago, and Brad's my boy. I love Brad, and I don't know how anyone else feel. Yeah, I know. I'm picturing Sam with that 48 in the background. He's probably not the biggest fan of him, but Brad made a comment a couple of weeks ago, and I forgot exactly after which race, but he said something. If you go take the NASCAR rule book, and if you pull just every other page out at random, you automatically enhance the product just with less rules. So I'm all about that, and I think that's something talking about just the product, the on-track product. Too many rules, too much politicking. I think it could really enhance the show.
I know we're talking about NASCAR, but Josh keeps bringing up that he finished 4th in points that one year. I'm just curious, Josh. Did you ever make it to Tech at all that year?
Not once. I never went across.
If I Tech your car, I could find something on that thing.
Well, I'll tell you right now, because I haven't touched it in so long. The seat belts have expired, so you'll get me on that. Other than that, though, I think the camber's good. I
think.
No, unless something got damaged in a wreck or whatever. Yeah. But the motor passed tech every time. So that was sealed. Passed safety. 373 open rear. I know that much.
Trying to think, your springs match from side to side.
Yes.
Were your shims within a half inch from
side to side? I thought I was the official of this podcast.
Sam, I'm not going to go there.
I'll check your underwear, Josh.
So Ryan Cruz ends up getting the win.
And Sam checked your underwear every time you went out on the track. So yeah, you did earn that top 4. All All right, let's get back to the show here. We're going to be here till midnight.
We need another Enduro.
I'm still dying. So Ryan, pretty sensitive grab of the win. Xfinity joins Cup in Richmond this coming weekend. Also, I want to give a shout out to, I love Ross Chastain. I feel
Don't
like that
shout, you'll hurt your voice.
So I'm trying. I love Ross Chastain. Third top 10 in seven races for Ross so far.
Sounds like you swallowed a watermelon.
It was a grapefruit, Sam.
You know, Eric, I do agree with you. Ross does a great job in anything he jumps in. I mean, he proves he can get the most out of an underfunded team's car and do well. I would love to see him get a shot in something great. You know, I think he could really do good. I actually met him down in Florida this year at Bronson Speedway. His brother was racing the truck division there. I mean, he's a great guy. I really wish he'd get that little extra boost and get in something really, really good.
Had bad luck in the Cup race. Well, really, he got swept up in trouble yesterday. But, yeah, and in fact, if you look at the duration of his Xfinity season thus far, worst finish of only 28th after they blew a rear end at Texas. Before that, though, his worst finish, 19th. And, again, 3 top 10s in just 7 races and 6 top 20s in the first 7 races as well for Ross Chastain. Love that kid.
Wait, who finished 9th? In the Xfinity?
Ross Chastain.
Oh, okay. Sorry. In 7 races. I was thinking 7. My brain is.
Don't mind him.
Yeah.
Another thing we got to touch on too with the Xfinity race. I thought I heard that there was no Cup drivers in that race too, right? Because it was a dash for cash.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a rule that they implemented this season after not allowing any Cup. The rule is if you have, if you have 5 years or more experience on the Cup level, you are excluded to only be able to compete in X amount of races. I forget if it's 7 or 10 now. Kyle, you might know. I'm not sure. I'm not putting you on the spot because I don't know either.
Yeah, it's something around there, and then they can't run in any of the chase races at the end of the year, and then the dash for cash races, I think.
Right,
So
that was
many
the amendment
rules.
they made this year. And listen, if this is something that fans were clamoring for, and I'm one of them, then they need to make it a point to try to watch the race. So, and I mean, I try to do that because I think, I've been going to sleep at night watching old then Busch Series races from like 99 and 2000 and seeing guys, like back then it was Jeff Green and Jason Keller and Tim Fedewa, racing with young and upcoming drivers like Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Matt Kenseth. The series had an identity.
Yeah.
You don't have it anymore now. It's they tried to brand guys like Ryan Reed or Blake Cook over the last couple of years who were finishing 13th and 14th every single week. It's the idea is not going to click with the casual fan, and by pushing some of these guys out. Granted, I still believe race car drivers are independent contractors and they should be able to drive and race what they want.
Yeah.
But because things have gotten so out of hand, you kind of have to level the playing field on behalf of the regulars, in my opinion.
I mean, my answer to that is, and I know that the TV industry, NBC and Fox, they have a lot to say with this, the networks, because it's a lot easier for them just to get their entire production crew to one racetrack for one weekend instead of spreading all over the place. But a natural way that you could kind of grow that identity back, not only with drivers, but with tracks, we need more independent Xfinity, more independent truck races. I mean, for example, I became a fan, or I started going to races when I was a kid, going to Nazareth Speedway, for the Busch races. Wow. And that was, it was an hour and 15 minutes from my house. It was a quick hour and a half, 2-hour race. It was easy in, it was easy out.
What town do you live in again?
Woodbridge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man, we got to hang out more, man. I'm in Staten Island. I'm right over the bridge.
Oh, you're right over there? Yeah, that Audi bridge is
he's
expensive,
over here
though,
now.
I was in Woodbridge today, man. What a disaster up there. All the roads were flooded.
Dude, it was bad getting to work this morning.
It was bad. I drove all the way up there to pick up a mini excavator, and I was literally, I could see the road I could get to, and it was flooded. And there was cars dead everywhere. The cop wouldn't even let me through to pick up. He's like, you ain't getting through there. The road's washed out. 287 was flooded.
Scott's like, hold my beer.
Yeah. I legit had to go through a detour this morning because one of the overpass I go underneath on my way to work, it was all flooded out, and they were literally turning us around on the highway and sending us back. It was
just so
wild.
everybody knows that's listening. We live in Jersey, and that's a little north of us is Woodbridge, and we had torrential rain here today.
Yeah, so if you like me, you can come hang out and have a beer. If you don't like me, then just stay away. You don't need to know where I am. But anyway, so going back with the Xfinity series, I really believe, and there's so many. I mean, if you look at the NASCAR schedule as a whole, industry-wide, I mean, sure, like the Truck Series goes up to Canada, the Canadian Tire and everything else, but like the entire Pacific Northwest is just like untouched. there's no tracks in Seattle. There's no tracks in Dakota or in Dakotas or Portland or anything like that.
Well, Seattle, you have to have all electric, right?
Yeah, and drink your Starbucks, all right? But yeah, like
I mean, and NASCAR knows that's a problem. They've been trying to do something up there.
Yeah.
They've even tried to build tracks up there and didn't work. I mean, the closest they got over there was Pikes Peak with Colorado, and it
didn't work out. Yeah, and
it didn't work.
I just think if you start, especially with those series, if you start introducing NASCAR to new markets, especially now until we could get to what I mentioned before with 2021, where you could restructure the racetrack contracts and get the Cup guys going all across the country, maybe into Canada or whatever. But get these Xfinity guys out there, get them running at races that are non-companion with the Cup guys. And not only, again, are you going to naturally, I mean, sure, like, back when you had like Harvick and Edwards and a couple of guys running for the championship. But other than that, like those races at Milwaukee, you'd only have 2 Cup guys in it. Compared to now, when you're running a companion at Dover, for example, you got half the field are Cup guys. So you naturally take care of that problem, and you help grow the product, and you help expand the brand as well. So
are you're an advocate for that? So you want more? Can I say West Coast races?
Not necessarily West Coast. Just
you want more Northwest, just West, just different.
Just something. Just go to places that NASCAR has never been before. Whether it's Canada, I mentioned the Northwest because there's not really much out there. But even if it's like a track, I mean, I know Oxford up in Maine.
Okay.
Even like running a short track up there or just whatever, just going to these markets that are just completely untouched and get the feeder series there to get people introduced to the product and help grow the sport that way.
Now, how do you feel about maybe an F1 style kind of thing here and not basically every other year a track? Because they have a couple tracks that they go to this year and then they go to a different track the following year, but then they come back to it. In 2 years.
That's a good idea. Split it up a little bit. I mean, they don't want to add no more races because it's already a long season. It's already 36 races in over 38 weeks. So, maybe give Iowa a Cup race and rotate it with another track. Maybe, that I do like that idea. That is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, maybe. I mean, just the politics of just with the track agreements and everything. Mm-hmm. I don't even know that's really possible. But like, I know for me. Like, I know we talk a lot about, and I'm even advocating it now just for the overall health of the sport of mixing up the schedule and getting the different tracks or whatever. But for me, being a NASCAR fan my entire life, I like the idea of knowing that like the first 2 weekends of June, just about every year, I'm going to Dover one week, I'm going to Pocono the other. You know what I mean? Like that, Dover's always at the end of September. I'm always going to Daytona on President's Weekend and July 4th weekend. You know what I mean? As a fan, I like that consistency. It helps me plan my schedule out better, especially someone likes going to races.
I wouldn't get rid of, because Dover, at least for me, hasn't been the best racing product, but it's close, and it's got that big banking, and I think it's impressive when you walk in there, especially for more of a casual fan, if they actually end up going, to walk in and just, wow, look at this. You know?
I mean, I'm actually doing that in a couple of weeks when they go down there for the Cup race. Mm-hmm. One of my friends, he's never been to a race of any sort, and I said, we're going to take you to Dover. We're going to pick a Cup race to go to for your first time, so we're going to be introducing him to the sport.
And that's one way to, and then, you wouldn't take away a Talladega or a Daytona because those are big draws. Bristol was normally a big draw for the crowd. And I like Bristol more than Martinsville, but both of them you can get away with, having half your nose crumpled in or whatever. As long as your hood doesn't fly up,
Aero
you
doesn't
can
mean as much.
Exactly. And I really do appreciate that because then it's a lot on the driver and putting it all down.
Right.
And to me, that makes for a much more exciting race.
Absolutely.
And whether I don't care what you watch for, whether it be racing action, wrecks, whatever. Daytona, Talladega, you get your eyes glued to it a lot anyway because you never know when something's about to happen.
Because the cars are running close together. And did we talk about the All-Star package? Did you guys?
I know they released the rules, but if anybody wants to bring up the generator to see what we're going to have for the next one.
Can I just mention real quick while I do that?
Go ahead, Sam.
First off, the issue with the tracks everybody's having, I could speak on behalf of WK, is that we're trying to find the right amount of East Coast, Northeast, and then the Midwest portion of it. I even thought about this is, think about it. IMSA, which is a NASCAR-owned sanctioned body, and IndyCar were all at Long Beach. Why don't we have a NASCAR race there and make it a triple header weekend?
Well, you got to replace the celebrity race, right, Scott?
So what are you saying, Sam? You want Cup cars at Long Beach?
No, right. I'm not to actually run that identical course, but I'm sure they can make a way, cut it, design it, whatever, to have the NASCAR.
I hear
IMSA.
people say that all the time. Let's get a street course, let's do a cup race like in New York City, like a street course. Those cars just ain't built for it. It'd probably be the most longest.
They're just so wide and
wide, heavy. I don't think it'd be a good race.
Listen, I'm just trying to get more bang for the buck for our race fans.
I would watch it.
While you're wrong, that's all.
I mean, I enjoyed watching the ARCA race down at Millville a couple of years ago.
But that's a road course. That's a regular road course. You go to a street course, it's different. Street
I know
courses
I'm in the minority, but I am a non-advocate of adding more road courses and street courses and stuff like that. I know I'm not a road course guy.
You don't like Watkins Glen?
It's cool once a year, but I wouldn't want to do it 10 times a year. I'm an oval guy.
But Josh, what I'm saying, I do like the road course race, and I think it's pretty cool. But there is a big difference between road courses and street courses. Is what I'm saying. The Cup cars want to be good on a street course. They don't accelerate fast enough. It's good for IndyCar racing and Formula One because they're so light and so quick. The Cup cars just want to get going. Where you go to a traditional road course, they get around good because they can keep the momentum up.
I was going to say, for me, I think a lot of the street courses would need to be a little bit wider than what they are to make it work for a Cup.
And I tell you what, you are right, though, in a little bit, Sam, because I did watch the Long Beach IndyCar race, and I was looking at it. I'm like, man, that must be a lot of work to set that track up. I mean, all the fencing they got to put up and barriers and walls. And
save a lot of money if 3 guys split it instead of 2.
Yeah, I know. That does make sense.
NASCAR's paying for it anyway. IMSA probably pays half that bill. So why not NASCAR? Let's think with our heads here. Brian France. Oh, did I say his name? Oh, God. My fault.
But I don't think they have that celebrity race anymore. But they did have the Robbie Gordon Super Trucks there, and that they put on a well of a show.
Those Super Trucks are awesome.
Of course, yeah.
Those are
now,
awesome.
Kyle. Since we got you here, and I'm absolutely in love with your insight on the sport.
Yeah.
You did bring up the All-Star race format, and I also want to get your take on the idea of them running the Roval at Charlotte in the chase race in the fall. Just your take on both of those situations that NASCAR is trying to take a swing at.
Well, I think I'll start with the Roval first. I think the Roval is going to be one of NASCAR's biggest mistakes in the last 10 years. I'll be very open in saying that.
Are you talking about just the Charlotte? Just that
road course race, running a championship race on a legend infield road course. Okay, that just it doesn't work for me. I think that oval has been there since 1960, I think, or something like that. I mean, it's been 50 or 60 years been running on that oval, and then all of a sudden now it's a problem and you're going to abandon the oval. You know what I mean? That was weird. Was that me?
No, it wasn't you. It was one of those jokers.
Oh, well.
That was me.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Before you keep going, Kyle, you are not alone. A lot of people I talk to in the Charlotte area think it won't even last till next year.
No,
I agree. I think I'm all for trying something.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I think
I'm with you there.
This was when you look at all your options. I think they would have been fine getting the Daytona road course, let's say, but trying to squeeze one in Charlotte. There's going to be no passing.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, I love Charlotte. I mean, I'm not going down there this year for the 600 because we're actually going to be racing at Wall Stadium that weekend, the TQs. But I've been going down there every year. It's a great track. I love it. I know the people, a lot of core fans, they give the cookie cutter mile and a half a hard time. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, it's not the tracks, it's the cars. The tracks have been there for a long time. The tracks have had a history of putting on great races and great finishes, these cookie-cutter ovals. But when you have an issue where, for example, at Texas, when Kevin Harvick was trying to chase down Kyle Busch, and every time he got within a half a second of him, he couldn't close the gap anymore, even though he was the faster car.
Yeah.
That's not Texas Motor Speedway's fault. That's the design of the car, and that's a fault of the Gen 6 of just how aero-dependent it is. And that's why I like, I don't really know if the idea of running, or I'm going to, lead this into the All-Star race now, of running restrictor plates and air ducts or whatever to create a bigger wake and a taller spoiler. I don't know if that's
I think they were just basing that off of how it worked at Indy, and it did improve the product in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah.
It did help. Whether it's going to be the solution for the All-Star race, don't know. But from our All-Star race format generator, round 1, 14 minutes. Each lap led is worth a bonus point. Round 2, 28 minutes. Fan vote to save a driver. Final round, 12 minutes, and the drivers race RC cars.
Oh, my God.
Hysterical.
They might as well. But
and how good is Kyle Taraska? Charlotte Motor Speedway did, in fact, open in 1960, and the kid knew that off the top of his head.
There you go.
Impressed.
There you go. NASCAR and racing is really the only thing I'm actually halfway decent at, so I'm not very knowledgeable in anything else in life, but
you and me both, Junior.
But yeah, and then just one more thing with the All-Star race. I mean, ultimately, when we're a fan, whether it's factory stocks to modifieds to IndyCar to stock cars, we want to see cars racing close together. We want to see side-by-side action. We want to see guys passing each other. And, ultimately, I think that this package that they're trying for the All-Star race, I think it's going to help with that. And I think it's going to be a great race, honestly. My biggest concern is just like any other change that they've ever made. What happens after one race, and if they try it for a second, a third, a fourth, eventually the team is going to catch on, and it's going to find that aerodynamic, to help themselves.
I think that's the good thing with the All-Star race is because they change it kind of every year.
Yeah,
you can experiment for NASCAR. They can use it as a beta test.
Yeah,
to an extent. Without throwing look, it doesn't. It's not a points race, so you can't be mad at us. When you don't perform well, for changing it up.
Yeah.
So NASCAR has an out where they're kind of free from really getting in trouble, other than the fans saying it was not a great race.
Yeah.
They get to try something.
Here's the thing too. We just talked about like moving races around and going from year switching off, skipping years and stuff like that, and switching off with other tracks. Do you think it's time to move the All-Star race to a different racetrack?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, I have a lot of friends within the industry, and I know they like having that week at home, but you could very easily have that same race Wednesday night, Martinsville, underneath the lights. Everyone's going to go wild for it. I don't know what it was, but I was in Martinsville this past October when, it was freezing. The race where Hamlin and Chase Elliott they wrecked, and it finished under the lights. And when those lights came on and the cars were out there, that place was magic. And you create that all-star atmosphere. It's only an hour and a half from, pretty much Mooresville and Charlotte and everything. Yeah. All right, so you still give those guys the weekend at home. You give an extra short track on the schedule, and I think that'd be a win-win for everybody.
Kyle, I vote for you for president of NASCAR. I mean, that's it. My vote is in. You're the guy, and just great stuff, man. I mean, absolutely great stuff.
Build them walls, Kyle. I mean, build them tracks.
That's going to turn into a real different podcast real quick. I appreciate it.
Sam mentioned IMSA at Long Beach. Juan Barbosa, Felipe Albuquerque got the win in the prototype class there. And also GT Le Mans was the only other category that was joining them in Long Beach. It was Oliver Gavin and Tommy Milner in the General Motors Corvette Racing entry that got the win.
Can I just mention, because I love sports car racing, I like this. Don't clutter it up with all the other divisions. Make it very easy. It was easy for my stupid ass to follow these damn cars around the track. It was great. It was great to wear a bow tie on Saturday. It was fantastic. And props to Bubba Burgers for sponsoring the Grand Prix.
That is pretty cool. Why Bubba Burgers is not a sponsor for Darrell Wallace Jr. in the Cup side, I don't know yet. But I guarantee that
Bubba Burgers do sponsor a lot of racing. I mean, they're starting to get like Lucas and all those other ones. It's great to see Bubba's, sponsoring so much different stuff in our sport.
I'm kind of annoyed that Jimmy John's doesn't sponsor Jimmy Johnson.
Hey,
with Lowe's leaving, who knows? They just might. You never know.
Would they bail on Harvick though? I don't know.
It'd be a mistake if they did, but I'm just.
It's just that the name lines up too well.
Yeah.
To I don't know. I'm going to leave it at that. Anyway, that about wraps it up for the NASCAR stuff, I believe. Unless somebody else is.
No, where are they going next week? Richmond, right?
Richmond.
Yep. And Sam died. Yeah. We just lost him.
Probably another hurricane or tornado up at college.
I think that's a perfect track for NASCAR. I consider it a short track, but they got room to race. It's not a real tight short track.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great place to even go watch a race. You're saying you're taking your friend to their first race at Dover. I think Richmond's a great place to bring somebody to watch their first cup race.
If we didn't have an ATQMRA opener at Mahoning this Saturday, you could bet your ass I'd be sitting down in Richmond. That's for sure.
Richmond's a cool racetrack. If you've never been there, go there. It's awesome.
A quick story before we get off the NASCAR stuff. Just to, you're saying I need to be the president of NASCAR and stuff. Just to show you how screwed up I am mentally. Dale Jr. You could have whatever opinion you want of him as a driver.
Redneck Jesus.
Saint Junior.
Yeah, he is my childhood hero. And last year he announced his retirement right before Richmond. It is when they were doing the Sunday race. We raced the TQs at Wall on Saturday. I got home about 11 o'clock at night. Woke up at 5 a.m. the next day. Drove 5 hours to Richmond for the Cup race and 5 hours back. So if that ain't commitment, or me just being a little bit...
That's dedication.
Yeah.
You're a little bit of a fanboy.
Yeah, a little bit, and I'm a little bit screwed up. I know that, but, we made it happen. So there's my dedication.
My kind of guy.
Yeah.
Our kind of guy. Our kind of guy.
Yeah.
Sam's now a bottom.
So, there's a bottom feeder.
Y'all talk too much. The damn app class. Shut up. Let's have this segment.
All right, so with that, let's take 5. I'm going to call my pharmacy and see if my meds are ready. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the other series that headlined Long Beach, IndyCar, the pass of the century that was taken away by officials, and also what happened to Formula One. You're listening to the RPM Podcast with Scott Riggleman, Sam Ballard Jr., Josh Matthews, Kyle Taraska, and his very sick Eric Brennan. We'll be right back.
Hey, yeah, you. Like what you hear and still not yet a subscriber on YouTube? Stop missing out and get notifications every time we drop a new episode. We drop it like it's hot.
My fever is hot right now, Sam. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the RPM Podcast where my voice is fading. Scott Riggleman, Sam Ballard Jr., Josh Matthews, and Kyle Taraska. And, of course, I'm Eric Brennan. Before I go any further, and again,
would you clear your throat? Let me clear my throat.
Just take a second,
Josh,
bud. We got all night.
I didn't expect you to use this crap that you recorded of me.
Sorry.
I have 2 things I want to get out before I lose my voice entirely. One of them is semi-serious. Well, it's actually very serious, and then I'll end it on a positive. I just want to send my thoughts and prayers to race fan Maria Gerdick, who came to Wall Stadium Speedway from Long Island this past week with her father, and unfortunately her father passed away today unexpectedly. So I want to send my love to her and her entire family. Longtime supporters of Wall Stadium Speedway, both her and her dad, whenever Riverhead was not running in conjunction with the Wall calendar. And just a total sudden and terrible loss for their family. And I want her to know that we're thinking about her. And on a more positive note, I want to wish a very happy birthday to Wall Stadium's own, probably the best looking official we got. And yes, I did say that, Sam, Doug Marr. And I'm saying that kiddingly because, jokingly, I should say, because he's always got the chest unbuttoned, whether it's 40 degrees or 80 degrees. So, Doug, we love you and happy birthday, buddy. So that's all I got.
After that, no, Doug's a good guy. I've worked with him. He's a good guy.
He's okay.
He is okay. You know what's okay?
Wait, Sam, are you Doug's bitch?
Yeah. Yeah.
well, Eric is Gary Larson's bitch. Scott's Nancy's bitch.
True.
I tell you what,
So
Eric Graham was hustling on that lining the cars up on the grid. Sam, I think you're out of that job. I think Eric took that over.
That's right.
Yeah,
very good job. But, I mean, he was only lining the cars up. It gets real crazy when you got to check for the fireproof underwear. So we'll see how he handles that.
Are you telling me there's a job opening back there?
Yeah, there might be. You might have to get out of the booth and come down there.
Protests are awesome when you're a race director.
So IndyCar at Long Beach this weekend. The crown jewel of road and street course racing in the open, as far as open wheel is concerned in America. And Alexander Rossi, who probably had one of the best cars the first 3 races of the year for IndyCar, finally has something to show for it. Dominated the weekend.
He smoked them.
Just dominate. I mean, Power made it interesting at the end, but even though Power had 20 seconds more push to pass in the last 5 laps, Rossi was still able to maintain a 1.2 second gap to go on to win that race.
Did you see that interview with Will Power after the race?
I did, and I thought about that. And I think I know what you're getting at, but I'll let you kind of lead into it.
Well, I was just saying, no, from when you normally look or hear or anything with Will Power, I mean, you got to have some cojones if you're gonna have that name. And he ends up kind of coming off as a bit of a douche sometimes. With the attitude. No, hang on, hear me. He comes off that way sometimes. A kind of a Paul Tracy attitude or whatever. But I was gonna say, this interview after Long Beach, he seemed a lot more humble, or a lot more. I don't know how I would describe it, but I'll let you take it from here.
Well, here's the thing.
By the way, Will Power is the best team in racing. I don't care, hands down.
It
the
is.
best team in racing is Will Power.
Lake Speed was close. Scott Speed was secondary, but Lake Speed was pretty close. But my deal with Will was the biggest proponent of them taking the downforce off these cars. So it's kind of up to him to kind of put up or shut up. I mean, he's the one who said he wants him to take the wings off at Indy and do 250 down to turn number 1 and let the drivers figure it out. Yeah,
I'm buying a ticket for turn 1 if they do that. I'm going to sit right there and see what happens.
I'm going to buy a ticket for the end of the front stretch. I'm not going to buy it in turn 1 just in case.
Yeah, I'll quote Eric Graham when we first went to Trenton. If you catch a car, can we keep it? That's the question. But with that, Power really wanted what IndyCar gave him, and that was the car that required. And here's the most fascinating thing I took from it, and to our drivers who are with us today on the show, this may surprise you. According to IndyCar data, the drivers were getting on the throttle, full throttle, 50 feet later off the final corner than what they were in 2017. And they were braking 75 feet earlier at the end of the front stretch as compared to what they were doing last year. So they're getting on the gas 100%. They're on their full throttle for a shorter distance, about 200 feet less on the front stretch. Yet the cars were about 10 miles an hour faster at the end of the front straightaway due to the reduction in downforce. Townsend Bell best described it as the point at which drivers are getting on the brakes or beginning to crack the throttle and get up to full throttle or full song is a greater distance than what it was last year. And that's all driver control. And I like that. And that makes me happy as a race fan. And that produces some moments like what we saw with Sebastian Bourdais down in the first corner. That was the pass of the year. I don't know if we're ever going to see something like that at Long Beach ever again. Bourdais swung out 3 wide to the outside, cut underneath the lap car of Matthias Lace. I thought he was going through the concrete barrier and out into the parking lot. He not only made the corner, but got up to second, and then gets black flagged by IndyCar. What the hell? It doesn't make any sense. It's like the Odell Beckham Jr. one-handed catch in football a couple years ago. It's kind of negated because the Giants lost the game.
Hold on. What the hell does that mean?
This pass by Bourdais was so good. And it's like IndyCar. And I was singing Kyle Novak, the chief starter's praises a couple weeks ago. And you know what? It may not have even been on him because IndyCar has a couple of drivers on their panel of officials that kind of come up with these decisions. But that was the best move that they had the whole race, and you're going to negate it? And then Bourdais got pissed. He had to give the spot back. Dixon gets by him, and without even getting through the next corner, Bourdais shot right back underneath him and outbraked again. And Bourdais' transcript in his interview was unique afterwards as well. He actually called out like everybody from his teammate Zachary Clayman DeMello for crashing and causing a late yellow, which he got penalized for pitting too early with Dixon. He called out Matthias Lace. He called out Jordan King, who just cleared house in turn 11.
Hello.
I mean, Bourdais was hot. And
I thought Sam was going to finish the line.
Just like Rossi was at Phoenix, even though Bourdais didn't get the finish he deserved, that he was, and Sam, I think it was you who I'll quote, he stole the show. The race, Rossi dominated, won. Bourdais was the entertainer for the race.
The quote of the race was, "Hello, I'm Jordan King."
Coming through.
Yeah.
Lee did. They had the onboard shot with Hinchcliffe as he gets body slammed by Jordan King, and King collectively
body slammed. I mean, it was a late dive, but I wouldn't call that a body slam.
The contact was pretty hard on the onboard. You could see Hinch's helmet kind of bob and weave.
Yeah, the guy stuck his nose in there. It was a late dive. So what? It was still a racing move. I don't think there was anything wrong with it.
Super late dive. Go ahead, Sam.
All right, simmer down. I'm gonna defend IndyCar here.
Oh boy.
Because first of all, I'm a huge Sebastian Bourdais fan. However, if that was a pit wall, if that blue line was
Thank you, Scott.
It was a painted blue line. It wasn't a wall.
That acts as a wall. If that's the case, that if it was a wall, he would have never made that move. However, I do think it's kind of BS that the color of the line should be the same color. First of all, I couldn't tell. I thought the line had a gap. I couldn't tell if it was blue or not. So that's all I'm saying. I think IndyCar made a smart move. I think they set a precedent now and say, hey, guys, you can't do this. This is something we're not going to allow. So props to IndyCar. I agree with it. Big Sebastian Bourdais fan. It hurt me.
Fine, then get rid of the line altogether.
Well,
get rid of the line at the end of the pit wall. You
can't have that.
This
you
is
can't. Then you have guys coming out of the pits. No.
This is
You
the
can't.
same thing that happens in NASCAR at Daytona and Talladega with the yellow line rule.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. These are professional race car drivers. The sanctioning bodies of each series, they promote their drivers as the best in the world. If there's asphalt or pavement or whatever it is there, let them figure it out. Yeah, what Bourdais did, I mean, here we are on this podcast, and Alexander Rossi, he goes out and dominates the race. But what are we talking about? We're talking about what gets us up on our feet, and that's a race car driver doing, what's the thing that Ken Squire said? The common man doing uncommon things or something along those lines. And that was kind of like what Bourdais did going into turn one. That was unbelievable. The fact that he didn't wreck himself, let alone anybody else. Right. And then you take that back because he went over a line on a road by a half a tire width, and then that's a penalty, and he's got to give that spot back, and it doesn't even count. If there's racetrack there and if there's room to race, let the guys race and let it figure it out. I mean, hell, even if there was, not to really go against Sam, but even if there was a car that was coming out of pit, even if there was a car that was coming off a pit road right there, all right, then, I mean, if they would have all wrecked, they all would have wrecked. I mean, that's the nature of the beast, and that's racing, and that's why we love it. So,
well, who was it? Go ahead, Sam. Go ahead.
As officials, it is our job to make sure all the drivers are safe. As much as you guys say you got this, race car drivers
I thought you meant
idiots.
Unhappy.
No. Race car drivers can be idiots, and I'm not saying all the time, right? And that move, I don't think any of us can redo. That was a fantastic move.
Yeah.
I think IndyCar did a great job. I think it took balls for Kyle Novak to make the call against Sebastian, and I give him credit for having a pair of balls. Brian France needs to learn from Novak.
I think that, I mean, you're sure, like, the officials, they set the rules or whatever, but don't nitpick, okay? You got guys, and Eric, you were just talking about the speeds at the end of the straight. I mean, you're talking about a guy making a split second decision at 180 miles an hour, okay? You guys never even done that in your street stock. I've never done that in a TQ, okay? I mean, that's just totally, what Sam is asking of from the, and I get where he's coming from the official standpoint, but at the end of the day, if there's racetrack there, let them race. If you don't want them racing there, put up a wall, put up a cone, or put some grass in there. Do something, or a curb.
Make it a penalty in and of itself,
right?
To cross that.
I mean, again,
it was the absolutely most exciting part of that race, and the announcers on TV were drooling over it, bragging about it, and then all of a sudden they take it away, and then the announcers are like, it took all the wind out of their sails. It was so funny to listen to.
I mean, even IndyCar is promoting it all over their social media, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, how great this is and whatever. Like, you penalized the guy. You're advertising an illegal act. Like, calm down.
They made a mistake there.
Well, they also
it was so exciting. It was so good.
But NASCAR uses all the fights and everything else, when they get out
it's
to
all,
advertise.
It's all BS. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, I mean, you got guys in Formula One getting penalized for blocking or whatever. I don't know if IndyCar does that too. I mean, hell, just let the guys
they
race.
do.
Yeah.
Actually, wait, who was it on the start of the IndyCar race? Got into the back of somebody.
Graham Rahal. Courtney Force's boyfriend or fiance or husband, whatever the hell they is, right?
He still finished good though, right? Graham Rahal still finished good.
Yeah, he came back and finished fifth, Yeah,
but who did he get into the back of? Pagano?
Pagano,
Pagano. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I think Pagano just checked up a hair early, and I get it. Sometimes you get the nerve. You don't know if it's going to stick or not going into the turn. Fine. But, he got a little tap from behind, and he went around. And then there's a penalty for that little tap, which it was close racing. I don't think that he did anything intentionally wrong.
Right.
It was, okay, I'm right on this guy, and then he breaks a little bit earlier when you didn't expect it, and you get into the back of him a little bit.
Listen, if Graham Rahal wanted to go in there and he wanted to take out Simone Pagano, the entire world would have known it, okay? Yeah. He goes in there and he taps him. It was a racing deal. Let it be a racing incident. I mean, same thing. I know we're going to talk a little bit about Formula One, but Verstappen this weekend, and like he got into Vettel or whatever. I mean, sure, he kind of.
Who didn't he get into?
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's kind of like a weekly occurrence, right? But I mean,
Yes.
and he dive bombed it in there, and that was a bonehead move in my opinion. But still, like you wreck. He already got a penalty because he spun himself, and then you give him a 10-second time penalty, and the guy that finished behind him on the racetrack ends up finishing ahead of him. Like, cut the bullshit. You know what I mean?
I can't figure out. I mean, in a lot of those cases, when you end up, going around yourself, that should be. I mean, unless it was a deliberate going after the guy kind of move.
Yeah.
There should be no further penalty. You already hurt yourself enough by spinning, and you got to recover from that. And I just think you talked about having too many rules and kind of killing the product.
Yeah.
That's part of it right there.
I'll have two hits on this. I did agree with the penalty on Ray Hall because it's similar to a mistake that he made in St. Pete where he just came from way – he hasn't figured out the braking methods of this thing yet.
Yes, he has. Just running the back of the guy in front of him.
Yeah, but it's the second
it worked well for me in Turkey Derby practice.
Well, that is true.
Sorry, Rob.
Did Ray Hall did he damage his wing? Like, did he have to come down pit road, or did he not get any damage from that? I'm being serious.
I don't think they replaced the front wing on that car after he got into the back of it. I think it was kind of like a square hit.
Gotcha.
Where he kind of chopped the tire down and
someone did come down pit road and get a whole new nose piece and wing on it.
I think it was Hunter Ray.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Just want to make sure. No fake news with me. I just want to make sure I got my facts together, okay?
Oh, we're in the same boat, Kyle. And Scott, not to get into the local stuff yet, but just I want to get your thoughts on this. At Wall
Scott
Stadium,
wants a hug.
I'll give him one.
I got one.
At Wall Stadium, there is a rule about putting tires below, what should be a yellow line with rubber accumulation. It's obviously a little bit different, but from the racetrack to the apron, they don't want drivers cutting the corner per se, whether it be in a factory stock or modified. Do you believe in that rule, or do you think if it's paved, you should be able to go there?
No, I do believe in that rule. I kind of got hosed with that rule last year. I mean, sometimes you got to go below because sometimes you get underneath someone going in the corner and they're coming down, so you got to go lower to avoid contact. But if you're, bombing down in there and doing it on purpose, then call it. But you got to look at the situation,
Right, like that year and I'm not calling him out because he's a great kid, but that year that Dakota Kessler tried to win the dirt modified or dirt sportsman race at Turkey Derby, that was a justifiable penalty.
Every situation, it's got to be called by our head official. He's got to make a decision if it was, you being defensive not to cause a wreck, or if you bombing in there to cause a problem or cut the track off and make it an advantage. You know what I'm saying? I mean, sometimes my car's too tight. If I can dip the left front tire onto the flat in the corner, it frees it up for me too. So sometimes you can use an advantage that way too, and that's not really fair either,
Yeah, it's on this one. I think I'm with Kyle, man. If it's paved, you know what? Even if it's not paved, if it's grass, let him go there.
But it's a street course. It's a street course. You can't just have Miracle Grow on the asphalt and all of a sudden you have grass.
The only exception I'll make is if there's like a chicane with curbing and somebody shortcuts the chicane or something like that. Or a corner. If you go to the opposite side of curbing, then that should be a penalty. But if you run a little bit wide or something like that, or you hit like an invisible zone or something.
It was an awesome pass. They should have let it go, and it was exciting. Now we won't do it again. Now we'll just follow him going in the corner and make for boring racing again.
I doubt that. I think Bourdais is going to push the issue.
I think he's fired up. He's fired up.
One other funny thing I noticed watching that race is, when they race around that fountain, that it looks like a fountain or a circle or something. If you really looked at it, and when they shine the camera down in there, there's tires in there. Did you ever notice that? There's all the fancy flowers that make it look nice. There's actually tires in there. I guess that act like a barrier if someone did jump up on there and hit it.
It's an expensive fountain, so
yeah. Well, it was just funny. It looks so beautiful. All these beautiful landscape and a beautiful fountain, but when they showed the aerial and you look down inside it, you can see these stacks of tires. It looks like someone threw tires into it. It was kind of funny.
That is pretty cool. IndyCar will continue this weekend with their second race in a row on the schedule, 4th of the year at Barber Motorsports Park, April 22nd. That race can be seen at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on NBCSN. Formula One had
Where is Nick Rendo?
Yeah.
Before we go to Formula One, I just got to say boy Marco Andretti had a good race too in Indy. I mean, he started.
When was the last
19th
time Marco Andretti won anything?
I know, but we.
I think it was 2011 at Iowa.
Is that when it was? It's been a long time.
I believe it was.
But he started 19th and finished 6th. That was a pretty good run.
Yeah,
that's a good run.
No, I hope he wins. I mean, you have an Andretti win an IndyCar. I mean, that would be as successful as Elliott winning in NASCAR. You need that for the whole sport.
Yeah. IndyCar needs it. Marco Andretti needs it. Andretti Motorsports needs to get Marco in victory lane sooner or later.
Also, real quick, Scott, you just reminded me. Zach Veach, 4th place finish, career best for that kid. I got to hang out with him. So did Sam at the WK event in Daytona when he, Gabi Chavez, and Juan Piedrahita drove from Indy to Daytona just to get some karting experience before the IndyCar season started. Veach ended up winning the first day's competition, got wrecked the following day, drove up to the field to get a top 5. That kid's talented, and his backstory is amazing. When sponsorship ran dry, he ended up building his own business to try to fund his racing career. When that ran dry, he started diving into some of the television stuff to stay relevant. When he got the opportunity, a lot of people questioned it, didn't qualify that well, and ended up with a 4th place finish. Zach Veach, good job.
Can I mention one thing before we go into F1? Zach Veach is such a great guy to the media. He is going to stay, and I hope he does, stay in IndyCar forever. He is what IndyCar needs. He is the opposite of Will Power, and that's what IndyCar needs. Not hating on Will Power, just appreciating Zach Veach. And he races with the WK. Fantastic. Great guy.
Yeah. And as far as Marco goes, you're right, Scott. He's got to clean up qualifying. Best qualifying result of the year so far, 18th. The other 2 races, Phoenix, Long Beach, 20th. And that was all out of 24 cars. So if they can clean it up in qualifying, the race results are coming, 18th to 19th, 20th to 12th, and 20th to 6th, as you just mentioned yesterday in Long Beach. So
now, Kyle, you mentioned, it's been a while since Marco Andretti won anything. What about Andretti Motorsports as a whole? Have they been winning, or have they won in recent?
Well, look, Rossi drives for Andretti, doesn't he?
Yeah. So the win this past weekend for Rossi was
Rossi's been doing good, and and I don't follow IndyCar as closely as I do NASCAR, so I really can't give you the numbers on that. But I just remember, like I said, it's one of those things where the name Andretti, that's the showcase name when it comes to IndyCar. You want that name to be successful, just like in the past. You want the name Earnhardt, or now it's Elliott or Blaney or whoever to be successful in NASCAR. And just
I agree. And that's why we pull for Marco. I mean, he doesn't live far from us, and we hope he does win.
Yeah. I kind of think it's like the Bushes and the Clintons. Get them the hell out of here. You had your time. Traffic it up the pot. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's time to talk about Formula One now.
Talk about Formula One.
And due to the fact that the race was in China this past weekend, it was kind of an underrated success of how really good that race was. Daniel Ricciardo went from 6th on the grid in the latter stages of that race due to a safety car from the 2 Toro Rossos wrecking each other. And he ended up getting the win. And a lot of people thought that Red Bull was going to be a team that took a step back this season. And I believe it's the first time in this type of engine configuration of Formula One that Mercedes has gone 3 straight races without a win. So perhaps we're seeing a bit of a changing of the guard here.
Now, Ricciardo started further back than 6th, though, didn't he? Or he was farther back than that for early on. And then he moved his way up via... several different incidents throughout.
I'm trying to see exactly where Ricciardo started. He actually started 6th on the grid. That's where that team qualified.
It's on the damn show sheet. It says he hauled ass from 6th to the lead in the opening laps. #Shoey.
Yeah, but he went.
By the way, do you guys know what a shoey is?
Yes.
You're talking about the thing where he puts the champagne
wear them
in
on my
shoe.
Right? Shoey? Yeah, I wear them on my feet.
Yeah. Yes, Kyle, that's what I'm talking about.
That shit's ratchet. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how excited you are to win a race. You're driving an hour and a half, sweating your ass off in a car, and then you're going to pour champagne, perfectly good bottled champagne, into your sweaty ass shoe, and you're going to chug it. You're going to be sick for a month. I don't care.
Patrick Stewart did it, so I'm good with it.
Whatever. Formula
For
One.
For the 100th episode of the RPM podcast, we're all doing a shoey. Sam,
we're all doing a shoey.
Quarter.
I'll just be listening to that one. I'll be taking part in that.
I'll be 21.
Yeah, you will. Old man.
Next race for Formula One is that fabulous track in Baku, April 29th. So that'll be the 4th race
Not
there. So I don't have much to
Bahrain?
talk about.
Baku. Sounds like a
Baku.
board game. Baku.
Not Bahrain. If I said Bahrain now, I would choke on my own. crap.
Honestly, I didn't think it was a terrible race. There, especially towards the end, it got a little bit better. The pit strategies came into play quite a bit with the Formula One race. I believe it was Bottas, not short pitted, but they kept calling it the undercut, and he pitted before Ferrari, and he ended up gaining a position there.
I just want to, in really quick.
Yeah.
These British announcers, it's not undercut, it's short pitting, it's not slipstream, it's called the draft. And these British announcers got to get that right. That was annoying. That was like my little pet peeve during the F1 broadcast.
So what do you call the paint?
What?
What do you call a paint scheme?
Paint scheme?
Yeah.
It's a paint scheme, or it's a wrap, or whatever. What were they calling it?
Livery.
Livery?
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here.
Sam, what do you call them?
I call it a livery, but I think it's cool. I think it's classy. I'm like Kyle. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's right.
I'll tell you what. If I close my eyes and I listen to Kyle talk, I swear I'm listening to Connor Daly. Like it's if you want, I don't know if you watch The Amazing Race, something like that, but like,
is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know.
No, it is. Connor's a really good, well-spoken dude. He's very intelligent. You know, he's been to Europe to drive, Formula cars where he's trying to get back.
Josh, can you make sure I get that recording? The fact that there's someone on this planet that it's recorded that they called me intelligent. Just make sure
it's on there.
Okay. I need a copy of that because this is like living proof.
It'll be on YouTube shortly.
This has never happened in 24 years of breathing. So thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Well,
and that's
compared to Eric, I mean, a lot of people.
Yeah, my cough drops have the same IQ level as I do. So
that's probably accurate.
We opened up the season at Wall Stadium this past Saturday, and it looked as though it was going to be the most fabulous day of 2018 so far. Started out with 80-plus degrees, and then once the sun dipped below the trees, it just turned to frozen hell. It was like a seismic shift. It was crazy. There was fog that was hanging low. That was getting whipped around by the vortex of the cars and all this stuff, just like what was happening in Bristol today. My goodness, what a race. Scott, you are the only person here who actually competed in an event on opening night on this panel right now. How was your night? How was the atmosphere? And with it being a little bit earlier this year as opposed to the last few, did it feel different to you, or it was just kind of similar to how it's been?
No, because of the warm weather, it didn't feel different. It felt like a normal opening night. But like you said, man, it changed in a flash. It went from 80 to 50 in like no time flat. The wind just came in and off the ocean and brought the fog and everything with it. But no, it was a great opening night. I think the crowd was pretty good. The car counts were good in my class. I know the late model struggle, but they always struggle. But the car counts were, we had 21, 18 made the feature, a couple odd problems in practice and heat races. But I had a great opening night. I mean, I won my heat race, finished second in the feature. Nancy ran great. She didn't scratch. We let her start where she was supposed to start, and she did very well too. We had a great opening night. I had a great time.
You had a great run to Bob Havestick, who ended up getting the jump on the start, got out in front. You guys went through traffic together, and you pretty much were almost inseparable. Mike Montano, who I think started a little bit further back, he charged up to third on the final lap.
He wanted a caution. Because the factory stocks are the only division, I think. The late models didn't have a caution. But factory stocks green the entire race. I know Montano was hoping for a caution to try to catch up to Scott and Bob, but that didn't pan out for him. Now, I thought overall night was incredible. But I will say, and you saw it in the factory stock race, because I'm used to Eric Graham in my ear saying, all right, double in one. So we start filing up, and then, when you get back to the line, it's going to be one to go. And it seemed like they gave that order kind of late. This is the only thing that I'm not.
A lot of people ask me if Bob jumped that start, and Bob didn't jump the start. Bob had a great start, but me and Bob even talked about it in tech. The one advantage he had on that restart over me was they're telling me to slow down on the back straightaway to let the outside groove catch up. So now these guys are flying up on the outside. We go into turn 3. They're like, oh, we're going green now. you know.
Yeah.
So Bob's motor's all cleared out because he just zoomed up to the front there, and the whole outside row was flying. And when it was, I started the race, and Bob didn't jump to start, but his motor was just cleared out more than me because they came flying up on the outside.
Yeah.
Usually we go around another lap before we start the race, And he took off on the start and had a great start. He just made it in front of me going into turn one. I actually had to back out a little bit to give him room to get in. And then our cars were like equal the whole race. Me and him pulled away. I mean, I was looking in my mirror. I didn't even see anybody behind us. It felt like we were gone. Eric, how far ahead were we ahead of the third and fourth place cars?
Good half a lap at least.
Yeah, I was going to say at least a straightaway. In fact, I don't even know.
Bob's car was really fast, and the only chance I had of winning the race was him making a mistake in lap traffic. I just stayed right on his bumper to keep the pressure there and see what he would do. And he handled the lap traffic great. It was fun going through lap traffic with him. I mean, even though I finished second, it was one of the most fun I ever had in a race car. And me and Bob had a great time in tech talking to each other about it. We had a blast. It was a good clean race, and it was a lot of fun.
It was a good race all over the place. I talked earlier about Brian O'Shea getting kind of hung up on the outside there, but I mean he stuck it, and he did everything that he could to hang on, and I think he ended up getting fifth for the finish. But really, anywhere you looked, there was a good battle going on. It was all over the track. Everybody was racing hard and clean, and it was exciting. No matter who you were rooting for, it was great. I was gonna say my only downside or my only negative would have been that I thought you guys should have done one more pace lap before starting, but.
Yeah,
that's something minor. That's not. There was no rules. It wasn't a bad.
They were just rushing the show because it was running late, getting cold, and they just wanted to get a green out of it.
And watching that fog get blown across the track, I mean, you're worried about being able to see it.
I tell you what, with all the fog and wind and how cold it was, the racetrack was great. I mean, it was fast. It wasn't slippery at all. It had a lot of bite and a lot of grip, and it was a good night of racing. I really liked it.
Yeah, I mean, really, there was a lot of good racing. I mean, the sportsmen were sportsmen. The modified race was actually pretty good. Andrew Krause, I'll tell you, give him credit for the cojones he's got. He actually put up a hell of a fight in the outside lane. For going for, was it first or second? He was fighting, and he was on the outside lap after lap. Really. Like, I can't believe the tires were holding up. He did an excellent job. I know he ended up settling for second there to Jimmy Blewett, but that was a really awesome battle to watch. I
was also glad to see Ricky Collins not get hurt in that wreck. I mean, he really
he hit a ton there.
And, if people don't know, Ricky Collins is a real big guy. I'm 6'2", and he's taller than me. He's a big guy, and modifieds are tight for big guys. And he hit that wall square coming off it too, and I was glad to see him get out unhurt. I didn't see how the accident happened though. Eric, did you see what happened there?
Rick, and I don't know about Ricky, but I spoke to Rick afterwards. He thought that Chaz washed up into him. From the video that we saw. And again, courtesy of Brian Hammer of Hammer Heating and Cooling, who's been a long-time sponsor of the track. He actually installed like 16, still motion cameras, 2 of which are PTZs that I could move if I lose a camera, if I want to emphasize in the restart zone or something. From the camera that we looked at, looking at turn 2, it looked as though the back end of Ricky's car started to come out just a little bit, and the left front clipped Chaz's right rear Nerf bar, and it hooked him back up into the fence head on. Mm-hmm. That was the view that we had. And if Ricky needs to see that, he can come on back up. We'll go over it with him. I texted him to see how he was doing. He said he was pretty sore, but he was okay. So that's
a big problem we had at Walsam last year is whenever somebody hit the wall like that, it would bust the wall apart, and it would take a half hour for them to fix it. I mean, that was about as hard as hit we're going to see at the racetrack this year, and the new guardrail held up well. They didn't have to repair it. They didn't have to fix it. So, thank God that maybe we got those problems behind us at our local racetrack.
Big credit to the track crew again, because between that wreck, there's a couple other decent wrecks with fluid put down.
They are getting faster and faster every year cleaning up wrecks, and they're getting better equipment. The trucks are running better. They're getting the speedy dry spreaders, and they got the blowers now, and they're dragging the tires. They do a great job. They really do.
Yeah, they kept that show moving despite that. I mean, the four cylinders, when they first started, they looked like a sportsman race. They were all over.
Right.
I mean, it was
entertaining. There was a lot of four cylinders too, right? How many four cylinders were there? Maybe that was.
I want to say there was close to 20. I think there's 18 factory stocks. Yeah,
they had a good count too. And then that's a problem. Everybody was like, "Oh, we want more cars. We want more cars. We want more cars." I always tell people, after you start getting over 15 or 16 cars, it's a lot of wrecks start happening after that.
Yeah.
That's the only big problem with big car counts.
But I would say the lady racers in the four-cylinder division put on quite the show.
Unfortunately, the one got disqualified. Whoever finished second place, she ended up getting disqualified.
Was that Rosano, I believe?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, she ended up getting disqualified in tag.
Yeah, her Jennifer Schultz and Darianne McLaren. She got to kick Neil's butt, which I think we're all happy about.
Yeah, I think Schultz, she won her heat race also, didn't she?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, good for her. I mean, that's great.
They're proving a point, and it's great to see them out there and being competitive on top of all of that.
So I mean, for the female racers, we're getting more and more of them. I mean, I know we lost Shauna in the modified division, which I really liked watching Shauna race. She's a very good driver. But I know we have Nancy and Teresa Collins in the factory stock division, and I think there's 3 or 4 girls in the four cylinders. So we got a lot of girls racing.
I actually finally met Teresa Saturday night. Just from where I was standing, she was talking about it. I was like, "Oh yeah, I raced against you back at Turkey Derby. I might race with you again next Turkey Derby." We'll see. But
Scott and Josh, you guys kind of touched on this already, but in the premier class, the modified ranks, a defending champion, Jimmy Blewett, in a deal that he put together with Scott Brannick of North American Construction rather late, ended up setting the quick time and qualifying, going on to win the race. Andrew Krause, who we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the fact that this was the first race without Cliff there, of course. A wonderful dedication was left for him on the tire trailer right during the drivers' meeting, with the family being there as well. And just to see Andrew come out, run the high side like he always does, be fast. In fact, it looked as though in the first half of the race, he had the best car amongst the front 3. Mm-hmm. And, at the end, Jimmy was just able to pull away a little bit. But as the season goes on, I expect Andrew to be right where he was last night, and that is running and contending at the front. And it must have been a tough night for him. And to see him finish second, the win would have been the best story to come out of the night, of course. But it was still.
I'm not going to lie. I was rooting for Andrew in that race. But,
Andrew does a great job on the outside, and he is exciting. He is willing to go up there and put on a show and be exciting on the outside. But you know what? While I was watching the race, I'm like, Jimmy Blewett's the smartest race car driver you guys will ever see at Wall Stadium. He was letting Andrew hang out on the outside and burn his stuff up, and that's why Jimmy was able to pull away from him at the end of the race. Jimmy was letting him hang out there, let him burn his stuff up. He burned his stuff up, and then Jimmy pulled away. Jimmy's a very, very smart racer. He knows these cars very well.
He's good, but it's one of those things that I can understand also at the same time. Like, oh, Jimmy Blewett won the modified race, and it's like, well, shocker, great. Yeah. And it's not to be against him, but it's when you get the same person winning over and over, and it would be. I mean, for the feel good story would have been Andrew to win,
right?
I think we can all agree with that,
right?
And then on top of that, Jimmy bailed on us the one night, so. And
Blake Barney bailed on us too, and he ended up getting into a little bit of a wreck too. So maybe that's a bad sign if you bail on us.
It's an omen. It's a bad juju. Eric Moriello got 3rd. Our buddy Stephen Reed 4th. Chaz Oakenson was your top 5. It is what's in the ranks.
Touch on Eric Moriello real quick. He had a window net come down early in the race, so he finished 3rd, and he came all the way up from the back. So he really put on a good show. They got that LFR car really running well.
Yeah, he was getting black flagged. And he started to pull down. Looked like he kicked up a little bit of dust, and somebody else got confused by him checking up. And there was a spin, which brought out a yellow. So he was able to go in and get that fixed and come back out without losing a lap, which was pretty awesome. So, right. I mean, that worked out well for him. Anyway, that's So, Scott, what protein shake did you have before the race?
Well, I was going to go with the banana Premier protein shake, but then Sam said, no, you got to go with the chocolate. So we did have the chocolate protein shake before I went to the races.
Team chocolate.
And it ended up being a long day and night at the racetrack, and I was glad I packed 2 protein shakes. So I had one on the way to the track, and then I had one during intermission. Talking about intermission.
Were they both banana?
No, they were both chocolate.
Okay.
And Sam, I can give you a little tip with the protein shakes because I posted my refrigerator, a picture of the inside of my refrigerator.
I saw that.
And did you see the lady one? So she said what she does with her protein shakes. She makes a dirty banana protein shake. She takes chocolate protein shake and makes it with the banana milkshake. So you might want to try it.
Truthfully, Scott, I keep my banana clean.
Oh my God.
But
Catholic.
Talk about intermission, Josh. I don't know if you saw Rob Longo's post on Facebook, but he said he has a good idea to keep the show going at Wall Stadium.
I didn't see this.
He said if you put the mufflers on the late models and call that intermission, it'll make the show go faster. So
yeah, all 4 of them. I feel bad because I mean those cars are pretty cool, but they're
awesome race cars.
Yeah.
You know? They'll get more. I mean, Van der Veen will show up with his too. Mike Tollett was away.
Yeah.
Mike Tollett had plans to go away this weekend because the schedule came out late. Dominic Casola's got a couple more. He's finishing up yet. He's going to bring one. I think he said May 12th. He'll be there with his, and he'll race the remainder of the year. I was surprised not to see Brian Doyle there. I don't know what his story is. I talked to Howie Conk. Howie Conk will have his late model there shortly. There's a few more that will be there eventually.
Yeah, I think the schedule caught him off guard. But in reality, I know we talked about it before, but for opening night and it being the schedule came out a hair on the late side, and it was an earlier start. There were still pretty good car counts all the way through. Right. I want to say, with the exception of maybe the late models.
The legends were light. That was a weird scene.
Yeah, it only had 7 guys start the feature, I think.
Yeah. Well, the legends are kind of hit or miss, I think.
Right.
Whether it be weather or where the people are at. I know that sometimes you get a huge field, and then sometimes you get a really light field with the legends because some people just get scared off from some of the wrecks that they get into there. But it's. You had 21 sportsmen, 18 modifieds, 18 factory stocks, 24 cylinders. Those counts are not bad, and if they put on some great racing like all throughout, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I think Wall Stadium's off to a great start. That was a great opening night, and also remember that this Saturday coming up is Fan Fest. Fan Fest is always a lot of fun. You know, a lot of people hand this stuff out.
What are you going to be giving out? Banana shakes.
Dirty banana Premier protein.
A business cards fits in with Races broadcast.
We might hand out, stuff like that. But no, I do have a few cool giveaways I'm going to give away. So stop by my car and see me, and me and Nancy will give you guys some stuff.
Sweet.
And I just want to step in and say, I know not like any racetrack is, but there was a lot of more negativity towards Wall Stadium than we would have liked, ever since Saturday night. But at the end of the day, kudos to Diane and the entire Kraus family, and kudos to all the officials and everyone part of, Eric and all you guys part of the Wall Stadium family. With Cliff's, with his tragic what happened in January. I mean, the place could have shut down very easily, you know. And then and every year, we're hearing about like this with the lease and that with the lease, but. Diane got I believe, to my understanding, she's got a multi-year deal together now. We got a place to race, and let's be thankful for that. At the end of the day, go ahead.
My brother, he wanted to do the show, but he can only come on Tuesday, and he likes his little part of the show where he talks about the concession stand foods at all the racetracks to go to. Yeah. He just wanted me to mention that the special on the concession stand was Sloppy Joe's, and he said he had a couple Sloppy Joe's there, and he said they were really cool. And you don't see Sloppy Joe's, and like you were saying, Diane does try different things, and one of the different things she does try is she does change the menu in the concession stand, and she brings great food. And Sloppy Joe,
they had like the
mac
roll on a cheeseburger.
They had that. The mac and cheese was awesome. It was like homemade something. I don't know who made it or whatever. That mac and cheese on Saturday was awesome. That was the best part of the night, as far as I'm concerned.
The only thing I miss is the fat sandwiches, where it would be like I start with a cheesesteak, then put chicken fingers and mozzarella sticks.
Yeah,
and
it's
French
like that
fries.
Rutgers food truck kind of feel.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what it was. The old food trucks or the grease trucks. Sorry. But I mean, that's the only thing that I would add. I mean, otherwise they have a lot of really great stuff. I had a hot dog plus the chicken tenders and fries and all that, and it was so freaking cold. Of course, I got a coffee.
Yeah.
So
And the price.
I mean, while you were eating all that, I was sipping on a protein shake, so I'm really partying at the racetrack. But Eric, Eric, I know you're zoning out on us, but
No, I'm here. Just trying to breathe.
One thing I noticed that was kind of weird when I pulled down on the racetrack, I always look up into the grandstand to see what the crowd looks like. A lot of people didn't say for the factory stock race because it did get really, really cold, and the four-cylinder race drug out a little bit. But I noticed there was like a lot of yellow tape in the grandstands. Was there problems in the grandstands with some of the boards or something? Or
I couldn't see that from where I was.
I didn't see that.
Perhaps.
Where were you seeing this?
Past, going into turn one. Past the flag stand, I noticed a lot of the yellow tape in the ground.
I didn't see it. I was standing up.
They had it off of 4 too, like the bottom rows or whatever towards the corners. Yeah, it was like blocked off.
I know they were replacing a bunch of a lot more of the benches.
It looked
again,
like it,
so
yeah,
maybe
they
they just didn't finish those. That could have been what it was.
But like what you guys said, overall, is I was there as a fan. Obviously you can't help the weather, but I thought it was a very successful night. And like I said, I'm just kudos to Diane and the entire Kraus family. I don't know if they're listening or not, but Wall Stadium's my home, and I'm happy to have it my home, and glad we got a place to race at.
I'm thankful for this year too. I mean, the prices are the same. One thing I can say, they haven't raised the prices. It's been the same to get in the back 8, the same to get in the grandstand. So I think she's pretty fair for her pricing, and I'm thankful that the prices haven't gone up.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's expensive for me to go to the track. I bring 2 crew guys, Nancy, 2 race cars, got to buy race fuel. Well, race fuel did go up. It was $10 a gallon last year. It's $10.40 a gallon this year, but that's the price of life,
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're looking for something to do on Saturday nights, I still think auto racing is an affordable place to go and watch and spend the night and have some fun.
Support your local short track before it's not a short track anymore.
Yeah, before it becomes like a you store it.
Yeah,
kind of place.
And on that subject, I did notice that the for sale sign on the corner, I know it's not for the property that the racetrack's on, it's just for that corner, but that piece has been sold, that corner right there. So I'm kind of curious what it goes up on that corner.
I noticed that too driving in the other day. Yeah. I saw that out there.
It's sold,
so
up
on that hill. Yeah.
And the problem is once one lot gets sold and gets built on, then they start, once that corner gets built up, it's going to keep going,
Well,
so we'll see what happens.
Luckily, they have the airport making its own noise and stuff like that. So even if they were like, "Oh, we got to stop this racetrack," you're still going to have to suffer through an airport.
Yeah,
so,
right.
That at least it would be, if anything, more industrial or most likely.
Right.
Anyway, so let's move along. I'm going to let Eric take over here with the ATQMRA stuff.
Well, before we do that, housekeeping. Blewett won the modified event. Eric Lane and the Lane family, who have helped us with our relationship with River Rock, which, don't forget, we're going to be live there for the Talladega Cup race on April 29th. It's only a couple weeks away. We expect you all to be there. Drink and food specials on tap, a live pre-race edition of the RPM podcast, guests, race cars for show, and if Mother Nature keeps up her end of the deal, we all suffered mightily Saturday night, so she owes me one for the 29th, and every Saturday going forward the rest of the year. So that will be there. Eric Lane got the win. Heartbreak of the Night Award goes to Jarrett D. Giant Tommaso. Set quick time and time trials, had one of the best cars, cooked the rear end late in the going, and was not able to back up his sportsman win at Turkey Derby. Felt so bad for that
I was going to say, not to cut you off, but what Eric Lane did off of turn 2, that little, when he dropped oil on the track, and
he was so sideways.
Oh yeah, he was I was staring at him straight on from the start finish line. Okay, from the grandstand, and when he straightened it back out and he shot to the lead and was able to keep everyone else behind him.
Yeah,
that was one of the most badass things I ever witnessed in a race car driver do in person. So kudos to Eric Lane
for those cars to get it that sideways and hang on to it and save it and then go on to get the win.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Congrats, Eric Lane.
Absolutely.
That was a hell of a drive, and he was there. I mean, he got lucky because he was starting on the outside for quite a while too, and he was able to manage to get down and get in line there.
Yeah. On every restart.
Yeah.
Not just at the end.
Yeah. Which is already an incredible feat. I mean, Scott. Well, we all know what that's like. So to be able to slot in.
And Kyle Sisko also had a bad start to his race, and he broke the front end off, and he was able to come in the pits. They had a broken Heim. They changed the Heim, and he was able to save his night by coming back up through the pack too. I think he ended up with a top 5 finish too.
Yep, he did. He did. In the limited late model, Shannon Monjo got the win there in a deal that came together rather late in terms of getting the season ready. He ended up beating out Uncle Joe Monjo.
There you go.
That was actually pretty cool. Legend Cars, Mike Alcaro showed up, won, ended up losing the win after there was a shift in the rear end housing, is what I was told in post-race tech. That wasn't from the track. That was from the man who went out. He said that the rear was shifted over a little bit too much. Our buddy Vinny Troya from Browns Mills ended up getting his first win. I think it was about over a year and a half now since Vinny's gone to victory lane. I believe it was his fifth win.
He stepped away for a little while too, so.
Yeah, and his good buddy Nick Van Wickle ended up in second, and Peter Bruno was back after his terrible crash at the end of last summer, rounded out your top 3. And finally, in the 4-cylinder ranks, a great battle between Brian Osborne and Mike Carr. Carr was driving TJ Graves number 9 until the hood came up on that car. No pun intended. Osborne, defending champion, went on to win. Chris Silvestri was in second. Then, as Josh mentioned earlier, Darianne McLaren, Jennifer Schultz, 2 lady racers, and Bill Schwartz was your top 5. 2 feel-good stories on the night. I documented them on Facebook, but Randy Hart got a heat win in the 4-cylinders. That was after he came back from a personal battle with cancer, and he wanted to make it known that he's going to donate all of his winnings from this season to St. Jude Children's Hospital and cancer research. Randy, you are the man, and thank you for doing that. And also, we all got to see Mike Tida back for the first time in a while.
Actually, I didn't see him there. I didn't know where he was.
Yeah, it's Mike was injured in a TQ crash on the Friday portion of the races in Atlantic City. He did not want to miss opening night. He's come a long way in his recovery. His wife, Renee, gentleman Steve Rogers, skipped from Tech at Wall. A lot of people went into making Mike feel at home just to get to catch some of the action. Unfortunately, when the weather took a turn, they had to leave because the cold weather was really affecting the way he was feeling. But Mike, we love you. You look great. And we are all thrilled to see you doing as well as you are. Yep. Because it was.
He
really
also sold his race car too. Did you see that? Someone finally did buy his race car, so that helps him out financially a little bit too.
Yeah. Good.
And we are hoping to have something up and running to try to benefit Mike and his family in the not too distant future. And again, I want to kindly ask everybody to stay tuned because we're trying to iron out those details. So, opening night is in the books at Wall. We'll be back in action this Saturday. Second verse, kind of the same as the first, but as Scott mentioned earlier, it will be Fan Appreciation Night with the on-track party scheduled to kick off around 4:30 p.m. For more information, visit wallspeedwayracing.com. I can't breathe. So, somebody take the wheel for a minute while I take a sip of water, please.
Well, I was going to say next up we have, we're going to talk a little bit about our, I don't know what you'd call it, partnership with the ATQMRA, which Kyle is a part of, on in many ends. I mean, you seem to be involved with the series beyond just driving.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you want to tell us a bit about how
I mean,
that came to be?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of, I got involved in the series about, beginning of 2015 or so, and then it's just, it's always been my dream to drive race cars, but I never really had the financial means to do it, and I never really had the knowledge of what it's like to set up a race car, and then I've had some people in the past, give me some great opportunity to give me the opportunity that I had, and then, the ATQMRA, if you get the right people, it is an affordable class to race in, and I've kind of just tried to improve my worth, and it's kind of like that gratitude thing. It's kind of like, that I guess the race fan perspective, you always want to support the sponsors or whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, the ATQMRA has given me a platform to live my dreams, so I want to support that club and that platform. So, I mean, we kind of stepped up and we really even enhanced the just trying to create more brand exposure for the series. The series has a lot of history, almost pushing 60 years at this point. Don't really know if that many people know that or not.
I know it. I watched him as a kid. The best thing that club ever did was go to automatic starters on the car. When I was a kid, people used to love watching them race at Wall Stadium, but they all had to be push started, and it would take forever to get those cars push started. Ever since they went to self-starting, it's been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much race motorcycles with a roll cage on them. That's pretty much what they feel, So, but it's a great series, and there's a lot of great people. I mean, our president, Buddy Slode, he's really into growing the series, and he's really invested into his drivers. Colin Martin, he's another person that comes to mind. He's the owner of Spitfire Racing, and I think of all the friends I've made. I mean, my iRacing buddy Joey Bailey. I know you guys are pretty familiar with him.
Who?
Yeah, he was when he found out I was going to be on here, he was texting me to make sure I gave him a shout out. So here's your 5 seconds of fame, Joey. But then there's so many great people. I mean, I think about the Boyd family and our defending champion Ryan Tidman, and there's so many great personalities within our industry, and we're a traveling series, and when we go from track to track, it helps our own exposure of just getting these guys out there and getting their name out there, and this way the fans they have someone to relate to, and they kind of know who they're watching, not just what they're watching, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
really.
and that's what I'm trying. That's kind of where I kind of stepped up in over the last 4 months of trying just to increase that. We put the RPM deal together here. It's a way for. I mean, you guys are a growing brand as well. I mean, we're talking out in the break about your 100th episode coming up. Viewership and listeners, it's growing for you guys every single week, and we hope that being a part of our website and our community and being your decal on our cars and advertising you guys, we hope that could expand your brand worth, just like how we hope us being a part of this broadcast here on a weekly basis, or at least when it's lined up with our own races on the schedule, it could get more people interested in the ATQMRA as well.
I think it absolutely will. Well, I would say more to the effect of, like you said, as we interview drivers and people get to know them a bit better,
Right.
and they're like, "Oh, that's that guy,"
Right?
Or that was the guy that said the dumb joke, so screw him,
Right?
And,
Right?
Whatever,
Right. I mean,
Whatever.
if anyone listening to this, Eric, they're going to think that I'm the president of NASCAR now if they listen to Eric and me. So, but yeah,
I love Kyle.
Yeah, it's important to get those personalities out there, and we're not immune to the struggles in racing today. I mean, we talked about car counts, and I fully expect us to have more than 4 cars at Mahoney Valley. Okay, but we're not going to go out there and have 30 cars out on the racetrack either. And for better or worse, I mean, we're trying to grow our series as well. We want people to be involved. I mean, there's cars available right now. There's a lot of great opportunity for quality cars to be built, and if you want to get involved in racing in the ATQMRA, now there's never been a better time to do it.
I think it's awesome. I got the chance to drive a TQ with the green flag driving experience.
Yep.
Now, I know I was probably in 6th gear, taking it easy, like I know the line, from the factory stock, but it's still a wildly different feeling because with the steering box on a factory stock, you're making
you're
you're almost going 180 on the
Sure.
wheel, at least in my car. Whereas with the TQ, it was, I don't know, about 5 degrees, and like that's more than enough. It's a different feeling. Now, for me, something that now Scott in the summer, like me, runs a screen instead of a Lexan windshield.
Sure.
It's too damn hot in the car.
Yeah.
Now, in the TQ, it was just like you have your cage, so it's over your head and all.
Yeah, you got your roll cage
but
and you got your nameplate, but that's it. Yeah.
There's nothing else in front of me, and that weirded me out a little bit because I was just envisioning a tire or a wheel coming off and, coming through that. And it freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah, you can't think about that. And if it comes at you, you'd better turn the other way. There's no other way to go about it, really. I think and when you see stuff like, definitely after an incident like what happened with Mike Titeback and then just with other incidents that we've seen in open wheel racing in general. I mean, think about Jason Leffler a few years back at Bridgeport. We're getting a lot safer. We're getting a lot smarter with our seats and our construction. I haven't been a part of any conversation about having a screen. My former car owner, we've talked about that in the past about putting a screen in or not putting a screen in. I mean, it's an option. We could do it.
Yeah.
And I know some guys have done it in the past, but that's just the dangers of racing, and unfortunately, it's just a reality, and you hope you don't get bit by the bug. But
I think I would put something in. Me being me.
Yeah.
I've cheated death enough already, so I'm going to put some type of.
Well, hopefully you're not jinxing me now for this year. But,
I don't want to. I'm just.
Yeah.
But that's something that regarding that division or those cars. That was just something that felt weird to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to being in this.
in a
capsule,
enclosed place.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
And you're just really out in the open, And another thing we're doing this year, with support of Buddy Slode and the board members and, people like Diane, and everyone, Peter Reynolds at Bethel and some other people at Mahoning and everywhere else, Waterford. We're trying to move in a direction where we're going to put the wings back on the cars for most of the tracks, more so for a safety concern.
Well, it would soften a rollover.
Exactly.
Basically.
I mean, that's the biggest thing. It's no secret over the last couple of years. I mean, ever since we've been on the bottom at Wall, I mean, it's enhanced the product from a passing standpoint. There's definitely been a lot.
There's been
car
more
counts
cars.
have been up. Yep. Yeah. And then the racing has been competitive, but at the same time, the power to weight ratio in our cars is pretty remarkable. Okay. Yeah. And they're a handful on the bottom. And especially after a full day of practice, and then you get a modified or, any type of division on the top, and they blow up, and then all that speedy dry gets blown onto our track, So anything that we could do to give us a little bit, and it's no fault of the track, it's just the natural part of a race day, but anything to give us more grip, to try to help us on the exit of the corner. And then, like you said, if we get on our lid instead of, I took a tumble down Wall Stadium, the front stretch one time. I'm like the only driver in Wall Stadium history to race on the bottom and wreck on the top. So, we don't want that. It's not good for anybody. Obviously, we don't want anybody getting hurt in order to the sanctioning body or the racetrack. Mm-hmm. We need to protect our cars and our drivers.
Cooler with the wings on them.
I was kind of thinking the same thing. I mean, we took out I was out there last week with the wing, and it was me and Cole Mullen, and we went down there and we were practicing just to give an idea. We were going to get the whole series down there, but the weather forecast really scared a lot of people away. So we're working on a contingency plan right now. Nothing's official, but we're hoping to get the entire club out there before our May 26th race at Wall. But I went out there, and honestly, the car drove very similar to without the wing. It just had a greater sense of grip, and that's ultimately what we're looking for. We just want to give our guys a little bit more stability to put on a better show for the fans.
Now you mentioned that, and really you're talking about otherwise a flat track, a very short and flat track.
Yeah.
The testing out the wings and see what it does. Now, would that apply to the indoor races as well, or would that stay?
Well, the ATQMRA and the indoor races were two separate sanctioning bodies. So Len Salmons, he does a phenomenal job running all that, and that's totally separate from the ATQMRA. There are some times where, in the past, I know, for example, on the schedule this year, our race up at Pocono Raceway is going to be indoor rules. Sometimes in the past, Turkey Derby has been an indoor rule race. So pretty much we could run the cars a little bit wider, change the engine rules up a little bit. But that's up to Lenny or Len Salmons. I don't know if that's going to be an ideal situation for them running around Atlantic City with the wings on. Because definitely the wings tighten the car up so much because you have so much more grip. And then, we talked the whole beginning of the show about the VHT and PJ1. That's all an indoor race is, So adding that wing on top, I don't know what that's really going to do for that. But
other than possibly applying that cushion effect.
Exactly. Yeah.
In the event of a rollover.
you could. Potentially. You could run the wings on them, and you could just mandate the wing angle and just make them straight. So because that's where you're getting all your downforce from when you're putting it down on that really high degree angle. Just run them flat, and I know the TQ Club. Outdoor wise, we've tried that at Wall in the past. Running the top, but at the end of the day, it was just the track and the sanctioning body just agreed it was just we're a little bit too fast for them, and that's why we're running the bottom, and it's a work in progress. We've been learning the last couple of years since we started running down there, and it's an ever-growing situation, but we're trying to improve it for everybody.
No, I really love the fact that you guys went to Pocono. How did that come about? Who got that deal going?
Yeah, that was actually a deal with Gary Monshine and the Classic Racing Times. They actually just had a big event out in Phoenix, and they kind of ran their event in conjunction with the classic race cars out at Pocono with the Indycar race last year. And we pretty much set up a temporary 1/5 of a mile oval at the exit of Pit Road. And I know the Mattioli family, they were really into it, and you could definitely tell. Our first time that we did it last year, it was definitely a test and tune, and like anyone from the outside knew that it was really our first time trying it. There was a lot of bugs and a lot of rust that we had to try to polish off. But I know the Mattioli family's really into it. The last that I heard, potentially we're going to be running up there with lights, under the lights this year at Pocono. We're going to put some floodlights up. I know they're talking about putting some actual grandstands down there because the only grandstands we really had were just like the main front stretch grandstands at Pocono, and you kind of had to like look over there, so it's like an awkward viewing spot.
Yeah.
But I know the track is really invested, and Gary's doing a lot to help grow our series as well, with a lot of initiatives that I've talked about. And that's we're hoping in the next couple of years that could. I mean, already is the fact that you could say you've raced at Pocono Raceway. I mean, that's astonishing. And to race competitively there. I mean, that's something to put on your racing resume. And I know we're really hoping for that to become a marquee event.
Where did they pit you guys? Where did they pit you guys? If you were racing on the front straightaway, where were you set up in pits? Were you far from the track?
No. We were set up right behind pit wall. So at the end of the ARCA garage, there's like this little. So like on NASCAR weekends, it's a parking lot for just like the PR people and crew members.
Yes.
And there's a paved area pretty much behind. If you could picture a paved area behind the first 10 pit stalls at Pocono.
Right.
And that entire area there, we just kind of turned it into our own pit area for the TQs and the vintage cars as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do the vintage cars run? The same track that
they run the same track. I mean, they're not associated with the ATQMRA. It's a separate division.
Yeah.
And I don't really know the specs or what makes a car vintage or doesn't. But that was one of our companion races at the weekend or whatever. But I mean, not to get off topic with that. Just I know everyone in the club, they're really excited, for this partnership with RPM. We got a lot of great partners. Hoosier Mid-Atlantic, they're our title series sponsor. They just stepped up. We just got a 5-year deal extension with them to be the title sponsor, so they're really invested into what we're doing.
You complain about 5-year deals with tracks, but a 5-year deal with the top.
No, I wasn't complaining about that deal with the tracks, man. Now you're putting words in my mouth. We talked about that fake news thing earlier, right? But Hoosier Mid-Atlantic really stepped up, and kudos to them. And then same thing, we got a great deal going on with VP Racing, and obviously everything with RPM. And I know we're looking to bring on a couple more associate sponsors before we get the year started this week at Mahoning Valley.
Now, how many races are, on average, do you have per season?
We got about it. I think this year it's around 18. We got like 16, 18 races. We go back and forth between Mahoning Valley, which is where we're starting off our year, this Saturday, and then we race at Wall Stadium, obviously. We've highlighted a lot in this show, and then we do go up to Waterford. Waterford was a race that we actually only went up to once a year. This time we're actually going up to 3 times. It is a little bit of a haul for our guys, but we are growing a major fan base up at Waterford. They really enjoy having us at the racetrack. Something that we are trying to do as a club, we are trying to do more driver autograph sessions at the track, either pre-race or post-race, depending on the time of,
you need to take advantage of like the Fan Fest events like Wall Stadium
right,
has, where you could have the cars right down there.
Right, and I don't know the logistics of that. I mean, obviously we'd love to be a part of the Fan Fest. Last year we were at Wall, this year we're not. I don't know what makes us a part or doesn't make us a part.
I think it's just timing.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day,
hi Nancy.
We're not trying to take away from what anybody does at a weekly level at Wall as well. But yeah, Waterford's a growing fan base for us. We're going to be heading up there 3 times, as I said, Mahoning Valley and also Bethel, New York as well. So, and then Pocono. So we got 5 tracks on the schedule this year. We're going to rotate between 18 races.
That's a nice schedule, man.
Yeah.
I was up in Oswego one time, and you got the TQ midgets were there. I don't know if it was your club or not, but they were there.
It was, yeah. And I never raced at Oswego, and I don't know if I got the balls to race at Oswego.
They were flying around. When I first saw them there, I'm like, are these guys going to race the big track? I never realized there was a cut through.
They cut 3 and 4 off, but even with that cut off, I mean, they're so friggin' fast there.
Big track, and they were flying around that. Yeah. It was a pretty exciting race watching them.
I know, like I said, I don't really have much control over the schedule, but I know there's a lot of guys within the club that would love to run back up there, but I don't know.
Why aren't you guys going back up there? Do you know?
I don't know. Like I said, I'm just I'm the guy that writes the stuff, for the Facebook page. I help out with that, and I'm pretty much, I work with the cards that are dealt to me, and I just try to expose us the best we can.
I think Bethel's a great track for you guys too. They need touring series to come up there and Bethel,
and I'd actually never been to Bethel. I'm excited to go up there this year. I'm not going to be racing, but I'll be running the races at Wall. Team to be announced. I'll have that announcement out in a couple of weeks, hopefully. But I do plan to be racing at Wall, and then other than that, I'm going to be race directing actually for the club.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just, I stepped up and I did it a couple of times last year, and I really enjoyed it. And, I understand the importance of, trying to give our series the best shows possible for both the competitors and the fans. So to kind of have a say in that, and then pretty much again for all the non-wall races, except for one, my girlfriend Megan, her sister's getting married on June 30th, so I can't miss that one, or I can't miss that wedding. So
we hate weddings during racing season, don't we, Eric?
I got to miss the finale at Wall for a wedding.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You skip the weddings.
I'm a groomsman. I am missing a wedding for the Indy 500, though.
Just a real quick question.
Yeah.
You say you guys are a club. What's the difference between having a club and a racing series?
The biggest thing with having the club is that it gets everyone more involved. We have our board members, we have our president, our vice president, our chairman, and then it trickles down from there. More so like if you just have like a racing series, it's usually on a weekly level. It's kind of hosted by the track, and the track comes up with the rules or whatever. But we just had one of our board meetings in Valley Forge, beginning of March, I guess, somewhere around there. I don't remember the exact date. With just to kind of fine tune, and we'll have another meeting at the end of the year to go over the rules for 2019. And
so is Valley Forge like your home base then, or
that's where the Valley Forge casino place, whatever it's called. I mean, they've really stepped up, and they've they provide a hall for us for our end of the year banquet each year. And
cool.
I said, that's where we have our rules meetings, and a lot of our teams are located for the most part in southeastern Pennsylvania or western New Jersey. So it's a pretty solid home base for our group.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't got nothing else to talk. I don't know what else I got. I think I covered it all.
That's great.
I know we're going to wrap the show up real quick. I just want to say personally, I'm not sucking up to you at all, Kyle. I love ATQMRA. I think it's a fantastic series. I always have, and that was one of the series I enjoyed working with because you guys are fantastic to work with at Wall, and I'm really looking forward to this partnership we have going here with the RPM podcast and you guys.
Absolutely, for sure. What are you doing? Are you dancing?
No,
what are you doing?
You got to show your arm restraints.
Oh, my arm restraint. Yeah, every time on that grid.
On a serious note, I'm very excited, Kyle, to not only work with you, but everybody at the ATQMRA. I'll echo what Sam said. It's a racing series in which I always developed a fond passion for. And part of the idea of this partnership is to have guys like you or Buddy or Joey again and anybody else who represents the ATQMRA quite well to come in, perhaps before, perhaps after, maybe even do some other things we can get rocking and rolling to kind of mutually collaborate. I want to say. Sorry. And,
he's sick. He's having a rough night. Yeah.
And just kind of go on the journey together. And if that doesn't sound like the end of the Titanic, then I don't know what does. So
we don't want this to crash like the Titanic, that's for sure. But I could promise you, speaking on behalf of everyone with the ATQMRA, we're extremely excited for this partnership. Just what you guys could provide for us and what potentially we could provide for y'all. So,
and all that aside, Kyle, you are one of the most well-educated, well-rounded, well-spoken guests we've ever had.
Thank you.
And you can come back anytime.
I appreciate
that. You
can
have my job.
Well, maybe. Well, I got my. It depends when you record. I got my classes coming up here for the summer, but
Sam makes it work. You have no excuse.
I mean, hell. Like I said, if we can make it work, I had a lot of fun tonight, and I'd love to come back anytime you're welcome to me. For sure.
Yeah, there's a big controversy over the hot dog situation.
Josh, I hate you.
I think that's it.
All right, Josh, take the wheel.
All right, with that, what have we learned today? Let's start with Scott.
Sam Ballard keeps his banana clean.
Oh, Christ.
Kyle, what did you learn?
I can't top what Scott just said.
You must have learned something.
I learned that you're a cool group of guys to hang out with and have a beer and talk racing with. All right, that's what I'm all about.
Meanwhile, he's only had water.
Yeah.
Eric,
trying to keep a clean image.
Eric, what did you learn?
I learned that Kyle and I need to go for a beer. I learned that Jimmy John should sponsor Jimmy Johnson. I can't read my own handwriting, so that's going to have to be it. Sorry.
Sam, what did you learn?
Here we go.
That IndyCar promotes illegal acts. That Rahal, and this is actually legit. I didn't know that Courtney Force and Graham Rahal were a thing, but apparently they're a thing.
It was Courtney, right? It's not Brittany Force. It's Courtney Force.
Yeah,
it's not John Force, right?
No. Gotta make
Okay,
sure
I
the
learned-
facts are straight.
I learned that Scott likes hugs and to receive hugs.
That's right.
I learned that
doesn't?
race officials are stupid
Yeah,
and that
we
my
knew
job
that.
is pointless. I learned that Daniel Ricciardo is ratchet.
Yeah.
I learned that Scott is packing with protein. I also learned that Scott has a dirty banana. And I finally learned that my banana trumps all things to know on the RPM podcast.
Okay.
What a note to end on.
I learned that Eric is happy with a grip strip. I learned that Scott likes Sunny D and STP, not necessarily mixed together. I learned that Sam is a bottom. I learned that Eric has 2 things that he needs to get out. I learned what makes Eric happy, and I learned that Scott was packing fudge on Saturday.
Hey, I also drew blue lines in honor of Sebastian Bourdais on my sheet this week.
Oh my God, you officials!
You leave it to them. All right.
Those race directors.
With that, don't forget we have a live show coming up April 29th at the River Rock Restaurant and Marina Bar in Brick, New Jersey, Route 70.
Real quick, to our dirt racing fans, Billy Pouch Jr. got to win the modifieds at New Egypt this past week. I know they had a rough evening, too, with the weather and all that stuff. So all short track fans, okay, chill, all right? It's going to get better. It's going to go up. Or everybody's doing everything they can. Stop crying over spilt milk. We got places to race. Be grateful, damn it. Come to Wall this weekend. And if you're up by Mahoning Valley, go watch the ATQMRA in their season opener on the 21st.
Amen.
And in the middle of doing that, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. And if you want to trash your local track, do it someplace else, not on our feed, because we support the local racing. Exactly what Eric says. If you don't like it, go home. That's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
If you don't
There you
want to
go.
party, your ass
gotta go. That's right.
I got to go get my prescription. So, on behalf of Scott Riggleman, Sam Ballard Jr., Josh Matthews, our new buddy Kyle Taraska, I'm Eric Brennan. I hope that I'm not dealing with the AIDS next Saturday. I'll see you all soon. Everybody have a good week.
Good night, guys.
Go to Wall.
Go to Wall.